Yeah, I heard you were Peter Daszak was on one of your chats.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Very much at the beginning of COVID. This so what initially been sort of trying to speak as a scientist to the public, saying, "Look, what's going on?" And very early on, this doesn't look normal. You should be very careful. And as we were working through is it synthetic, and at that time, I'd realised that they'd shut down the social whatever, Twitter, YouTube, etc. I'd already had a bunch of accounts banned for just talking about lab origins. And so I just started for fun, just sort of engaging in like mimetic war against these people. And suddenly that just opened the door, because Angie Rasmussen, who I was taking a shot at, I was just calling her Fat Angie all the time. And and the people, the memes were brutal. And then her and what was her name, Amy Maxman, who worked for the Atlantic Council, or moved to the Atlantic Council. She was working at Nature, wrote a science editorial about me. And I'm like, oh, okay, that worked. And it just sort of it turned into like this 5 years, 6 years of going after people, and I trying to do it in a funny way, I suppose. So some people found it highly egregious and offensive, but
Good.
yeah,
Kevin, I
We
have a
need more
T-shirt.
offense.
I have a T-shirt that says "Meme War Veteran,"
Mm, yeah.
and I have to admit, I have to if I had my hat, I'd take it off to your meme war effort, because you know, I got look. I was actually, I actually thought of myself as a real doctor. I attended cardiac arrests and gunshot wounds, and looked after newborn babies, and
Mm,
I was an anesthesiologist, critical care doctor. I never thought I would be so deplorable and for just talking science and safety, you know.
mm.
Uh, but safety became, yeah. But the memes has really been a big part of this war, And I have to admit, I've really enjoyed your memes over the last few years. I don't know if you've seen any of our work, but
Oh, I'm an aficionado of any mimetic warfare now, and yeah, I've probably seen them and retweeted them, and
I reckon we could have a meme art gallery. The works of art now of this era. I mean, the era is
yeah.
documented by memes.
I think mine would still be the behind
In the
lock and
curtain
key.
off section.
Yeah. But
You sure you want to go in there?
yeah, the Fat Angie ones were brutal, and so were the ones against Peter Daszak, right? They were like they weren't even the ones against Peter were just crude. I just draw like, because he had just such a round big forehead. I just drew like a image of a cock and balls on his forehead, and it was enough that and I can remember the month. It was in November. It was getting towards like the end of the year, right? And he popped up in the chat saying, "I can't wait for all you conspiracy theorists to get it in the Biden administration when he comes in, when Trump leaves." And I was I was like, I got Peter in the chat, and then literally a couple of weeks ago, he retweeted again that I was engaged in this therapy, and he was like, "Wow, look at this grift match," and well, a grift is when you go off and make biowarfare agents, and in this instance, we're trying to undo the damage that he's done, right?
Yeah.
That's the cherry on the top of what's been a very long struggle.
Yeah.
And the to take what they've done and the harm that they've done and actually be turning it around, and in the sort of spirit of how I streamed and the what would you say, the standards that I wanted to see, right? Because everything became so opaque and censored. I've done the whole of the treatment. It's an experimental protocol, right? And but I'm putting it out there in sort of as real time as possible, so people can see what's going on. I'm not hiding the combination of treatments that we're doing, and the simple fact is, you literally need a hospital to do it, and so it's you've got to have the equipment and the skill set.
Why don't we start there and just go back a bit, and just tell people what it is you're actually doing? Because I've been following Lindsay, the nurse, who might be coming on, and I think we tried to get you on once before, and just everything got mucked up. But tell us what you're doing, where you got the idea, and just what you're actually doing.
Yeah, so primarily, look, there's nothing really new in what we're doing. It's the combination and tempo and cadence of the treatment, which is novel. And we're using a form of what's called apheresis, but it's a very invasive form. And the reason to do that is because, well, you have to have a working theory as to the disease that you're treating, right? And so I'm very much in the sort of, there's a microclot autoantibody cascade that occurs in vaccine injured long COVID people and combinations thereof. And everything that I've been following, all the therapies, all things like nattokinase, that type of thing. I've literally tested all those things, and they do not work. They do not disaggregate these amyloidogenic like clots. And the first, so I knew how would you say, like, there was EBU out there, but I was getting people's samples and EBU wasn't working. And the head of the hospital in Tokyo, he was, when I was sort of really trialing and going through, it's basically the same test that you use to test for prions, right? It's called real-time quaking induced conversion, and I was using that to test for being able to initiate an amyloidogenic cascade with the spike protein. And we took these growth factors from stem cells. They're neuroblast stem cells, meaning that they're from the embryonic layer that forms the brain. And I've got to throw back. There's like ectoderm, mesoderm, and there's a third one, right? But anyway, it's part of what, as the embryo sort of forms a tube, right? It's these stem cells which form the neural crest, and those stem cells are in the tooth of young children. And when the child drops the tooth, they culture the pulp that's on, there's always that little red bit, right, on the tooth and they manage to get stem cells off there, and they culture them, and we give, and so I said that it's the cadence of and the intensity of treatment that we're doing, right? So the apheresis in this instance, right? So one thing that I've been harping on about for 6 years is the dangers of amyloidogenic protein.
Can I just slow you up there? For the other 7,999,000 people who aren't you, What is whatever you just said?
So amyloidogenic
No,
proteins.
Before that, I do that one
Oh,
before that.
apheresis.
That's it.
Yeah, so we do a procedure called it's immune absorption apheresis, but we're sort of going by dual filtration plasma apheresis because it's kind of a dual filtration setup,
Yeah,
but
it
with
totally
immune
is.
adsorption. And
Yeah.
the way that we're doing it is that we target the jugular vein, and the premise being that rather than next, there are other people sort of doing apheresis, but they will tend to go off a peripheral vein. And the way I describe it to people is like a sort of vape bottle, right? So if I can try and filter my blood, right? And if I stick it in my neck, right, the blood that's going to fill that first is basically the return flow from the cranium and the brain,
Okay. Yep.
right?
Yep.
Whereas if I stick it elsewhere in the peripheral vein, I'm basically trying to pull, and it's the same volume filtration cylinder, but you're basically trying to pull against the whole of the bulk flow of blood and plasma as it's moving through essentially peripheral circulation, and so I think that's one aspect of why we see what can often be quite dramatic changes within 1 to 2 sessions, and people who've had severe brain fog and things like postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, right? When I was growing up, that was one thing that was just like, we don't have a treatment for that. And we're seeing people go into remission after a couple of sessions. We've had some tough cases. Of course, there's some that haven't responded, but of the sort of 5 to 10% that have blunted responses, there's 90%, and I think we hit 60 patients this week that
Yeah.
we've done in the last basically this year.
Well, I've seen the change in Lindsay because I've been following Lindsay, the nurse, for a long time, and I've seen the changes in her. She's doing baseball. She's running. This is, it's extraordinary. Yep. And I think you're right. You're there at the coalface. You're a scientist. You're experimenting, and there's a great need for it.
Science sort of died a bit, didn't it, during COVID?
Oh my God, that's putting it mildly.
To your mic, Paul.
And medicine died too,
Oh, yeah, it took an even worse crash off the cliff, right? Tragic to watch.
I consider myself a scientist. I used to put in those catheters that you're using in Japan.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Into the jugular, because they're nice big bore cannulas, so you can get a good flow, so you can actually, filter a lot of blood. I think it's brilliant, but it's invasive, unfortunately.
Yes, yeah. That like this isn't no health spa treatment. This isn't EBU, right? And there's adverse events that can happen, and we had I'm completely transparent about what happens and like the risk, but we did get and the odds say 1 in 100 you get a pneumothorax, and we had a pneumothorax. And
what's that? No offense.
So
what's that?
It's where I'll let the doctors tell you. You don't have to.
Go on. That's why he's here.
It's where the lung collapses a little bit, and there's a bit of air outside the lung.
Okay, that sounds bad.
Or blood. Or blood.
Or fluid.
That sounds even worse.
Pneumothorax, I just said.
And but it was treated quickly, and but it was.
But that's not fatal.
I mean, depends where you are, right? If you're on the trenches in Ukraine, probably is. If you're directly in a hospital where they can CT scan you, it's going to be an uncomfortable 48 hours, but they know what to do, right? It's not a completely unknown adverse response.
If
But
it's small, you don't have to do anything. If it's large enough, then you have to put in a small tube to allow the air to come out of the lung. I've performed that, and I performed enough to actually, see it. But
yeah,
it's
they were putting a pump on this, like vacuum pump, to sort of increase the flow out. And I've read about them, and I've seen them on TV and what have you. But like, this is the first time I've the adverse events that I used to have to deal with were generally above the neck, right? Just because of the neuroscience background. But it was we are incredibly transparent to people when they come here about just what it is that they're doing. But the desperation in these people is it's very, very moving. And all the patients have a story, and the consistent theme: gaslit by the medical system, nothing wrong with you. And well, especially if it was vaccine injury. The medical system in the US has been shocking, right? The amount of misdiagnoses that we're seeing come through from the US, right? It's a sort of easy pickup. Like, the clinicians here are picking stuff up, and they're like, well, there's your problem. It's probably less that, less COVID and vaccines, and more, sort of structural issues. And there's enough data that we've looked at where we can see a consistent pattern. And the I don't want to give too much away, right? So I actually, as much as I sort of want to turn my back on institutional science, there is one paper which I want to get scribbled out and down, and that's the population who has the blunted response. And there's a consistent feature that we see in these patients, which is CSF leak. And why is that? Well, it's hard to, there could be many, many causes, but the prevalence of it is orders of magnitude above what you should see in the normal population. I can't remember what the odds were, like one in 140,000, something like that. And
Paul, what's that?
Well, I'm used to seeing CSF leak from spinal anesthetics. I mean, if you do a lumbar puncture, you can get the fluid that bathes the brain is surrounded by a sac called the dura, and between the neural tissue and the sac is this fluid, and this fluid can leak out. My question was, where's the CSF leaking from?
So it's sort of cervical base of the brain, and so I'm sort of toying with the idea, and this is a long discussion that I've been having. Shout out to Joachim Gerlach about aquaporin and its role in COVID and its interaction with spike protein. And glymphatic drainage of the brain uses aquaporin, and the spike protein binds. And I just wonder, it's like any fluid filled object. And can I hardly hear Paul? Oh.
Yeah, you might have to just be closer to your mic, though. Not you, Kevin.
And if there's inflammation going on, where can it go? And it's coming out of the patient's noses, and it's going down into the neck area. And it's they're the most difficult patients that we see, and at a rate that should just be you shouldn't be seeing it. So if it's a new observation around the pathology of exposure to spike protein, or these people were somehow predisposed to these CSF leaks, then that's an interesting addition to the canon of what must be one of the most studied disease states in existence now. I always sort of sit back and think how much work has gone into sort of classifying COVID, and they've gone down to such granular detail, but there's been just a lack of therapies that can make any impact. And you have people. If I was to rank what we see from people coming into the Edogawa pathway, all of them have tried what you could consider the spectrum of how would you say, like, commonly discussed therapies, nutritional interventions, etc., to try to deal with their long COVID or vaccine-injured state. And they've sort of reached a state of desperation. And we've even had people who have done sort of apheresis at other clinics, but because of the combination that we're doing, they're coming here, and the feedback is that it is superior to any other method. And the best out of what I would say the patients talk about, it's probably ivermectin, right?
Holy horse paste.
Yeah.
Bless you in the name of the holy horse paste. The hydroxy, the vitamin D, the zinc, the quercetin, zinc ionophores, and the mysterious melatonin.
Yeah. And but those people are sort of taking ever increasing doses till it just sort of loses efficacy. And
oh wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that before. Yeah.
And so in this instance, cure is a big word, right? And the problem is with an experimental protocol like this, costs money to do. Like, I'm literally in discussion to try to get a new analytic device just because of the volume of patients that we have coming through, just to try to get something that doesn't require labor intensive, high. It gives nice looking data, but the man hours required to do those tests are huge, right? It's if you're using automated microscopy, you can say like a week to run like a plate well. And I'm talking to a company right now, and we're not a government funded institution, and it's $200,000.
Yeah.
Right. And
I might just interject there for a sec for the people coming in who don't know you. Is that this is Dr. Kevin McCairn? Is it okay to call you a doctor? Your PhD as scientist?
It's Kevin's fine.
Kevin, and he's in Japan, and he is working on treatments to remove the spike protein in the amyloid. We call them calamari clots, but the amyloid clots from people's blood. And I've been following a woman called Lindsay, who's a nurse from Canada, I think. She's
US. She's
the US. Okay, the US. And
Mm.
so I've been following her, and that's why I reached out to Kevin. So this is a scientist. And so this is where we're at. So we're just hearing about the work that he's doing in Japan, and I'll put up the links for what he's doing in a sec. But yeah, sorry, Kev, go ahead.
And I could keep sort of rambling on about it. It's like maybe easier just to look at slides. And
sure.
I've got quite a few questions for you, I think.
Yeah, sure.
If they can come up as we go along. I was worried. I first got exposed to the idea of prions when I saw a paper in 2021 by Bart Klassen, the huge.
Yeah, I remember that paper.
And I remember posting it straight away, and it got blocked. It got censored straight away, and my account got throttled. And I thought that's a sign, but it's a terrifying thing, the word prion, because of its association with mad cow and Jakob Creutzfeldt, and I put that on hold, but I've been looking ever since 2021 for evidence of it, and when you started, then I became aware of Professor Douglas Kell talking about misfolded protein and Pretorius, and I remember writing a couple of years ago, well, we have to stain this clot with thioflavin T because to see if it's amyloid, because then we'll know. And I remember when you finally did this, and now the thioflavin T, can other things other than amyloid?
Yes. So you have to be grounded in its use, right? And so when I receive slides from people, I have to check the glass, right, just to see how much it's sort of picked up contaminant, because loads of things glow in UV, right? If you just sort of think about, you're trying to look sharp at the rave, and the UV lights come on, and basically all your
Yeah, that's right.
all your dandruff lights up like a like a disco ball, right? And so
Yeah, that's right.
it's very important to be able to, well, everything I say is just, if it's come through the post, and I have to say, look, I have to caveat your results with the quality of the slide that you've made. I don't expect people to have a clean room and lab grade slides coming through. And just to tell you how sort of tricky the methods are, right? Which is, I don't have a box here, but I would tell people to get these slides. Hang on. Right. So currently, right now, when people send glass, there's like pre-cleaned, and that's what's available on Amazon, right? But what you want, and actually these are not the slides, but the manufacturer is who you want. Do I not have a... Hang on, I'm determined now to get that. Wait a second.
Yeah, Paul, you're just a little bit soft. When you get closer to your mic, you're fantastic.
Okay, when I'm eating the mic, it's okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can see Kevin.
I'm the same.
You can see Kevin as a real scientist. You see, he's trying.
Yeah, man, he reminds me of Doctor Who.
All right, I give up. They're here somewhere, but I mean, I could demonstrate real quick, just like this glass. So it's lab grade glass from Matsunami, right? But these are they're just sort of basic ones, but to get silane coated Matsunami glass in the US is $400 for a box of slides. Right? Wow. It's like that's the ridiculousn's of scientific purchasing, and it's not open to the public the way that it should be, right? Because if you want slides of lab grade, I've investigated a little bit. You have to, like, the easiest avenue, Thermo Fisher, and they're asking $400 for like a pack of 10, right? And so you have to find some middle ground, and the ones AM Scope, right, have pre-clean slides that generally pass muster, but there's always people's just environment, etc., and it's not the cleanest of tests, but I would add that actually I think it's one of the better tests, even compared to pulling IV blood. And the reason for that is that what we see presenting is basically small vessel, small fiber disease. And it's a spike-driven angiopathy. And the Lancet test on the finger, where you're basically going into highly vascularized, highly innervated tissue and squeezing out a drop of blood from there, is actually I see more hits off that than pulling from an IV line or the central line. And that's because what I think is happening is the amyloid is just sort of coating those small vessels, a bit like sort of paint in a way, and they sort of build up, they become a bit rigid, and then you start to see the chronic conditions developing as a long-term obstructive disease of these. What's the substrate for your life and existence? If the blood doesn't flow in those small vessels, you start shutting down. And I think that explains much of the gallery and cornucopia of long COVID symptoms. And we've got data where we've got people that are literally in sort of congestive heart failure, and the therapy is cleaning it out. You can see from one X-ray to another the difference in people, and that sort of turnaround is very hard to ignore, from neurological, cardiovascular turnaround, and then you just have sort of people's own unique presentations with complex disease like that. And so, can we get it all? But obviously not, because there's some non-responders, and the other ones, there's a spectrum of response in there, but I would say they're all good. They're all going out in time. And I worked, prior to COVID, I worked in like the sort of cutting edge of neuroscience, where the people were going in and sort of inserting brain implants and recording neural activity, and like the smallest change would be like a Nature Medicine paper for being able to well, if you made an intervention with POTS, with deep brain stimulation. And in fact, I know they've tried to do that in the past, and it hasn't worked. And but we see this sort of massive turnaround, and then people are like, well, it's not permanent. Well, whatever is really permanent, I don't know. But the fact that you can make such a rapid intervention to turn the condition around, it's basically that's telling you what the underlying cause is. And okay, so you have to get more treatments. And so what I would hope to get, just sorry if I'm sort of talking a bit too much, but I just want to get,
man, you're the guest.
So like, if we could get people, they do that month treatment, and if they have to come back in 6 months and a year, right, that's a very, very good marker. And I would hope, okay, they come back for a week and they do an intensive treatment, and then they don't, that if it's 6 months, they don't have to come back for a year, right? If it's a year before they have to come back, then it's 2 years afterwards, right? And then enough that we can just sort of say that therapy is clinically significant. That's what you're aiming for. Now, can you deploy it everywhere? Kind of. You need full hospital infrastructure, and you need the difficult part for people who have particularly vaccine injured is getting access to treatment, because they're often ignored still.
Well, I can vouch for that. I interview vaccine injured people, and so does Paul, and they're ignored. in Australia now, they're the lowest on the lowest rung of society. They're
Mm,
ignored by doctors, ignored by politicians, ignored by
mm,
family and friends. There's only a small group of freedom
mm,
people that really, really listen and help and spread their stories. The
mm,
rest, and they've all spent hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to get
mm,
better, and
mm,
no one I've interviewed who says they've got better. They just say, "I'm doing better."
mm.
That's
And
about as
so
good as they can hope for.
we had a young lad. He's on Twitter. Right right now, you can sort of follow his progress. And the mother came, and she even started treatment, and she was like, "Oh my god, it's amazing," right? But she'd spent, she said, $450,000 before coming
Wow.
to
Yeah.
Japan, right? And the cost of treatment relative to what she'd done was, it's still expensive, right? But it's a fraction of what she had paid. And she was like, nothing ever worked. It got to the point where they were accusing her son of basically abusing drugs. He had some sexually transmitted disease, something, it was always something else apart from the condition. And this was a vaccine injury. And
Anxiety over here is what they tell people. They come in. I
mm,
interviewed a 21-year-old girl. She had a heart attack in the hospital. The whole hospital was full of young people on heart monitors, so they couldn't give her another one. And then they
mm,
came in, told her she's 21 years old, and doesn't have a bad heart, that
mm,
she's due for her next shot. And she said, I just had a heart attack." And she goes, so what?" I mean, there's a disconnect. To talk to someone like yourself, Kevin, and hear you talking like this, it's like going back in time to when
mm,
doctors and scientists actually were interested in what was happening and not
mm.
this strange world we live in now,
Well, this is where we're very, very fortunate to be involved with Edogawa Hospital, and maybe I can talk a little bit about
Yeah, it'd be
Edogawa.
great.
So, the hospital itself is in Edogawa Ward. It's sort of the east of Tokyo, not far from Skytree and Disney, Tokyo Disney, that sort of area. And the hospital itself is family owned and run, and has been for close to 100 years. And it's
Wow.
it's one of Japan's oldest family run hospitals. And for that reason, the head of the hospital, Dr. Shojiro Kato, he saw the damage that was coming from these vaccines and said, "No, I'm not being quiet about what's happening." And he put his reputation, the hospital, on the line to speak up against what he was seeing, which was an inordinate amount of vax injury relative to COVID injuries in Japan. And the thing is that in Japan, they're generally just far more healthier. That I think COVID still caused problems, but not to the degree that it's caused people with inflammatory lifestyles, to put it mildly, in the West. But there's very few people that really, when it comes down to it, are prepared to put everything on the line. And I know about Paul and you're subject to the crown, sir. You get told what to do. And for him to be able to turn around and say and in Japan, where they're, I would say, the most vax country in the world, because they're very high conformity would be the phrase, right? High IQ, high conformity. And it's a aging out population as well, so the old were getting targeted, but the young did too. And we see plenty of vaccine injury in the young. And he Yeah, he was a orthopedic surgeon, sort of prior to COVID, and very very good one. And was I always say to him, like, I sort of as a PhD and postdoc, I was at like the top institutes in the world for doing deep brain stimulation. So Paris, Hôpital Salpêtrière, where it was sort of one of the first hospitals to be developed, UCSF in San Francisco, and I was involved with Mayo Clinic. I was collaborating with Mayo Clinic and their neurosurgical program, and how to put it? But there's I hate to say it, but like a sort of arrogance to brain surgeons that is palpable a lot of the time. And I have to I always tip my hat to Shojiro, and I always say, look, you, and I think it's just because he's in the family environment and he's very, how to say, unorthodox doctor, very, has a very artistic sort of worldview, I guess.
Wow.
Hospital is sort of like full of his paintings, and they've got, yeah, funnily enough, they've got a sort of collection of emus out the front of the hospital.
No way.
Yeah, and all manner
Sounds
of
great.
yeah, and
Good thing they're not in Australia. They'll try to jab them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're vaccinating penguins at the moment down here
Oh my god.
with mRNA.
Yeah, it's like
So you'll be getting them turning up at your hospital soon.
It's
Yeah, that sounds like a really cool place to start the beachhead of the revolution.
Yeah.
In communist Australia, we're so many miles away from being able to provide any sort of science-backed treatment. Now, when I use the word science, I think I also have the word science, which is science with a dollar sign and a trademark symbol. I think you have to give them two different words. What we're talking about is science. What we're getting in the slop, in the media, and the pharma cartel is some sort of, I don't know, facsimile, some fake. I don't know how to describe it.
But I would call it institutionalized science, right? And they're very well. Again, it sort of goes back to what I was saying about the brain surgeons at these big, world-renowned hospitals. They have a playbook that they use, and generally they're successful and in a model that generally worked okay prior to COVID. And they're used to sort of sitting on the lion's share of funding and access and rubbing shoulders. And I was used to call it academic circle jerks, and but that's what they do. And I dealt with it as a postdoc, and when you're sending in manuscripts for review, you know who to avoid and you know who to ask for with your review of your paper. And I saw that being done all the time. I would never put anyone, and like I made sure that 95% of my academic output is open access. So and
can I just put up some comments here? People already wanting to contact you. So if you want to contact Kevin personally, there you can go there. I'll leave that up for a bit. And then for blood analysis, it's there. So I'll put them up intermittently through the thing. And so, yeah, sorry, Kevin, please continue.
So, why has the institutions collapsed in the manner that they have? One, I think, you'll be very attuned to this in Australia, is just the woke agenda that fills universities and their compliance to the human resources department rather than actual science, in my view. And so you've watched restrictions on speech and thought, and that was, you could just look at the previous 10, 20 years as academic freedom did get shut down by a very determined ideology, very, very much a groupthink ideology, and that targeted the young. Also, we'd allowed our education system to fall into one where we're saddling youngsters with massive amounts of debt if they want to go and do a medical degree or a extended scientific pathway in STEM fields. And so those people were over decades put into a position where it was too risky, right? I know it's easy if you've sort of stepped into the crossfire of the battle that did took place, and you sort of look behind and saying, you know, come on, it's obvious what's going on. Get in there and get stuck in. And no one did that. And I could look through all my contacts before who could describe in detail the things I was describing about amyloids and prions, and they didn't. And even they didn't have the crippling debt, right? They were older generations and everything. And I just think, oh, they're worried about their kids in this instance, right? They even though they've got the tenure and supposedly the academic freedom, they didn't want to go up against what was the, how do you call it? The literal trunk of the scientific industrial complex that was orchestrated by NIH and CDC, the big institutes like Wellcome Trust, and you watch these people be afraid in that instance, and yeah.
We have people over here. Sorry, Paul. We have people over here whose parents have died. I think one parent has died, and she wanted a test. And there's a test that you can get to see if it was the spike protein. You can't get it done in Australia. No pathologist will do it. And she's been trying for ages. This is what we've got. They're just absolutely shutting you down. The D-dimer test, they were shut down. If a doctor asked for one after going, what are you doing? What are you looking for the truth for? We told you, don't look for the truth. But they said it in another way. The doctors and nurses were all saying a thing. If you say anything bad about COVID, kiss your career goodbye. You know.
It was highly orchestrated.
Absolutely. Yeah. Tyrannical, really.
We had Richard Hirschman on a couple of years ago.
Okay.
We were talking about the clots, and we talked about protein misfolding back then. And that's why I was excited to hear of the 5-flavin tea. And I understand the 5-flavin tea is part of the RT Quick. And I was posting about, you know, the zombie deer that they were seeing. And about 3 years ago, I think I saw an interview of you, Health Alliance Australia.
Ginny.
And I have to admit, that put me in bed about as long as COVID did.
That's true.
You know,
honestly, that's true. He was that depressed.
I was like, because you were using words
Not that we sleep together, he just told me.
You were using words like, you know, amyloid prion, you know, bioweapon, binary bioweapon. And it was the first time I actually had to sit and think, oh shit, have we been attacked? Is this a two-part, if you like? Or you can describe what you meant by binary.
Binary agents are ones where the initial ingredients or what would make up a binary agent are inert, and they're not toxic till they sort of come together. You know, one of the classic ones, if you're buying all the Crown propaganda from Britain and Australia, is Russian Novichok agents, and them using them in how was it, Salisbury, right again, right next to the what was it called? I've forgotten. Porton Down, where they do and the disturbing realization for me was, I worked in protein synucleopathies, like Parkinson's, closely related to Alzheimer's. So I had some grounding in that sort of biology. And as I was early into the, well, just to say, early over the top, as it were, for the trench warfare. And it definitely looks synthetic. It definitely looks, as the layers got peeled back, you're like, oh, okay, there's literal biowarfare government entities behind all this work. And you have to shout out to Charles. He's in the chat right now, Charles Rixey. And as a
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Charles.
he did an enormous amount of work. One, just to demonstrate that the pantomime which they were trying to sort of force down people's throat wasn't what was actually happening with the biology. And I learned an enormous amount from listening to his very, very systematic breakdowns of the nature of these agents. And the people who came forward, who actually sort of moved the needle, were the ones who were Marines like Charles, and
Joe
some of,
Murphy, Lieutenant
yeah,
Commander Joe Murphy.
and the world owes these people, especially Charles, an enormous debt for what he did do and is doing right now. He's literally working right now as like coordinating in the US patients. I'll sort of look at their blood, see if it has a hit, and if the symptoms are bad enough and there's a pathological signal that we can look at, it's enough to say, okay, to the hospital that we can you can clinically assess this patient. They get handed to proper, fully qualified doctors. There's 100 years of accrued knowledge and medicine at this hospital. They do everything. It's a 450 bed hospital in Tokyo, and it was it was the few, unfortunately, the few, the brave, as they say. And
Do you know the other thing that it took me there was first that realization that perhaps this was these were bioweapons. I knew in, I think, April 2020 or May about the furin cleavage site and the Pradhan paper with the HIV.
when that paper came out, it was explosive.
Yeah, it was like it
Right.
was over by then. We didn't need to wait for the Fauci papers to come out 6 years later.
Yeah, but it just demonstrated precisely the type of orchestrated censorship that they had in place, waiting to shut down debate. Like, I smacked headfirst into it, and that I was just being gobby on the internet, and but it was pervasive, had the ability to radically interfere with your life should you go against the grain. And
That's true.
this system that they had in place, I think they were, so all this stuff with like LLMs that you're seeing, right? I think they probably had a sort of functional version of that, right? That they could put around the what was the? It's been so long since I sort of talked about this stuff. It's not Halo. Anyway, they were just sort of UN linked. Who
I have
linked?
an example of that. I'm pretty sure I realized. I talked to Ian Copeland. I don't know.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that
So early on, towards the end of 2021. So this was after I'd already been thrown out of the castle. And my first discussions with him, he was actually a normal human being. In other words, he wasn't offensive. He was nice, but he was clueless. He knew nothing. And then suddenly, a couple of months later, suddenly he had all the references and all the rebuttals for anything you threw in front of him. And it was only
well, not for me, but
but the other week I realized that they clearly had some sort of AI. The moment you mentioned anything, I mentioned. So I was my crime was talking about early treatment, because I thought if we can get everyone to give the elderly vitamin D, lower their risk, early treatment with hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, or any one of 100 other things given early, and you don't get the long COVID. You don't get you can literally reduce greatly the impact of this, and that's what I took on as my mission, and that was part of why I got.
I mean, that's not even that controversial, right? But for the Crown to sort of come down in the manner that they did against you, and what's the other fella? He's just got back on Twitter, Cartland, Dr. Cartland. And
he can't even coach his kids' soccer team. He's banned from everything. They're trying to ban him from breathing, you know. So,
and you know,
and we got the same over here. We got a gaggle of doctors who are the same. You know, they're just torturing them through the process. You know,
and they know they know they can do that, right? Because they own the system. They know it's no skin off their nose to drag you through a court for 5 years, right?
No, not at all.
And so they knew they had this.
Not ready. They postpone it. Yeah, and it's. I think they do it strategically, so other doctors go, "What's the point? Look what they're doing to Dr. Miley Trin. Look what they're doing to Dr. Hobart. Look what they're doing to Easterhouse or William Bay, who had a success over here." But he.
In 2021, when they suspended me, though, Kevin, I actually sued the medical council in the Supreme Court, and they dropped the suspension. They gave me back my license. And,
but I thought you were not allowed to treat still.
No, I had my license back in 2022, but I just found them so. I was so horrified by the breaches of ethics and the behaviour that I didn't think I could go back into a system that was doing harm. It wasn't just, I couldn't accept that it was all ignorance.
Yeah, well, bravo for taking a moral and ethical stance there, because it was.
Oh, he's been astonishing in Australia. He's been astonishing, yeah.
But the funny thing was, I did it without a lawyer. I argued on my own
pajamas.
in the Supreme Court, sometimes in my pajamas because of COVID. So I considered it fun at the time. I didn't consider it that they were torturing me, you know, like some insect on a needle. No, I was putting them on notice that what they were doing was a crime, and that at some point, they're going to have to face it.
I don't think so. I think what you'll get is a sort of cooling down. Like Fauci's been thrown to the dogs, but he's at the end of his life anyway. And you know, there'll be a whole bunch to say, "Oh, I told you so," and then the impetus for people to move, particularly as events sort of. I feel that there is a sort of acceleration that's ongoing as they.
I'm not relying on the courts to become sensible, although that could take years. But I believe in consequences.
No, I hope it's real.
I believe in consequences. So I'm not saying necessarily that the courts will bring about justice, but just the sheer amount of injuries and deaths will eventually lead to consequences. And that may be in the courts, but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, here's what I think is happening, right? So they will do anything and everything to avoid the categorization of your chronic illness as being due to a vaccine. Now, I tell people, if it was a vaccine injury, you're probably better off just saying COVID did it to you, and you might get access to at least some treatments that
long COVID.
somewhat effective. If you sort of try to die on the hill of a vaccine did it to you, in most cases they're just going to steamroller you. And as the base pathology gets a grip of the individuals, eventually they're just gonna, go down that, what's that, little pegboards, right, where you drop coins in, and eventually it sort of like goes through, and then you're gonna pop out as a neurodegenerative condition, as a cancer, and then they'll just say, oh, that's normal, right? That's just part of
That's what they're doing here. They're doing it now. There'll be trolls in here going, of course people are dying. People have always died, 12-year-olds have always gone to bed and died in their sleep.
Yeah, and I think Australia is just one of those countries where, the all-cause mortality just still sits way above the predicted, right?
And they don't talk about it. Everyone's going, oh, let's move on. It's behind us. Let's move on. And we're like going, no. Let's stop a second, because we became the Jews overnight and you guys became Nazis overnight. And you fucked up our whole country. Our identity's gone. We don't know the fuck we are. And we're pretty pissed off. But we can't get enough people angry enough to demand retribution, because I don't believe in karma. I don't believe God's got a huge ledger that's going, okay, Kevin did this, so I'll give him a parking ticket there, and I just don't buy it. I actually think the people have to get angry and realize there's been a democide going on.
That's the thing. Yeah, there's a lot of, how should we say, weight behind the eugenicist, what's his name, the Klaus
Schwab.
Schwab, yeah, and just these people who talk about just population management, right? And that thread, I guess, of control through the institutions has been there for a long time. It's very powerful. They interact with other, dubious organizations, and the Rhodes scholarships, that type of thing. All that, take your pick. And and what is it that they're trying to achieve, and what do they see, just from an evolutionary perspective, right, or a game theory perspective, which is that, they, as a the 80-20 rule, Pareto distribution, right? If suddenly you've hooked onto that and you have way more than the average that's out there, and you probably got it from some degree of moral turpitude, as you kept jabbing children when you knew you probably shouldn't have, and you're sitting there on ill-earned wealth. I'm not sure I'd call it wealth, but gains, I suppose, is a better turn of phrase, right? And you're looking there and you're seeing essentially, like, you realize that the barrier between yourself, your ill-gotten gains, and what's essentially a mob actually is pretty thin, right? If it push came to shove, and they're sort of reliant on the fact that they can engage in psychological warfare to keep nudging the population one way or another. Suddenly that's why I think a lot of the thank Vladimir Putin, he ended COVID, right? That's as soon as Ukraine started, you didn't hear much about COVID anymore. And
it's like data centers ending climate change. We need data centers now to imprison the world. Oh, look, the climate's fixed. What climate change? What are you talking about?
And all of those things, I think, have legs to a degree with respect to how they're looking to interact and control sovereign human beings. And as a Western Anglosphere, we've very much lent into the sort of technocratic dystopia, and for all my railing at the tech, I'm the one that's still bashing away at a keyboard and staring at a screen, scrolling. I haven't locked or removed myself from that system. I think probably thinking about it from a having an effect, you can probably do more within it than or parallel to it, I guess, but then sort of going and living as a hermit in the forest. But these management systems, because that's what they are. It's all about management, and now they've realized that you can incentivize a whole bunch through positive and negative reinforcement. This brings us back to debt, and once you got enough of those kids into debt, and you got enough of them so that they're dependent on that system. It's like the scene from Matrix, right, where Morpheus is sort of walking, and what's his name, Neo, right, just keeps getting bumped and barged, and he's giving that speech about the Matrix. These people are so plugged into the Matrix, and that's literally what they're telling you, the system and how it works, and you should.
Yeah, I know.
Those are little nuggets of truth, right? And
Yeah.
Their ability to implement this program, you're watching it happen in real time.
Mhm.
And as COVID sort of died back and the wars have taken more precedence, right? Whereas I consider the start of the war is when they deployed the use of bio warfare agents, right? So 2019, 2020 is when it really started. When did the Second World War start? You can always sort of push it back, right? But for me, that's when it really sort of kicked off, and all the dark aspects of mind control, etc., the weaponization of neuroscience, and you watched it be rolled out, and you watch them take a hold of population at such a. It wasn't subtle. It was literally by the scruff of the neck.
Yeah.
And you watched people comply at a level where they're like, okay, we know we can keep moving on. Phase 1 has been done. Now, of course, any fight you get into, you all have a plan to get punched in the face, right? So it didn't all go their way, but they had enough depth with respect to being able to shut down and silo people of dissenting voices that now they've got to the point where, okay, they can, the crowd that still are still thinking and worrying, or trying to make a stand, right? Because if you were talking earlier about, well, if you let COVID go, you're basically just giving them carte blanche to continue down
That's right.
down that pathway, right? And so by throwing Fauci and morons under the bus, as they have done, and as they look at Rocky Mountain laboratories, and the biowarfare programs in the US are all moving anyway, right? They can just torch those places. It's a few people that get taken down. There'll be a few people on Twitter that'll be like, yeah, I told you so, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of them have done pretty good work at sort of pinning these people to the floor with respect to the lies and they always talk about misinformation, right? For the amount of it was probably like first gen AI slop that they were just throwing out under the orders of these systems. And they just,
Yeah, that's right. I think I saw some woman say today, I can't remember who said it, and she's saying the truth now is basically unwanted. You literally risking your career, even your life now, to speak the truth. It is totally what they're totally shunning it, and we're seeing it in everything. Over here, you can't meet anyone who thinks vaccinating fairy penguins who live in Antarctic waters against the flu makes any sense, sense, and yet they're doing it. And the government's out there like celebrating how great it's literally living in 1984, except in the novel 1984, the rulers seem to be really clever, where our rulers in Australia seem to be have gone to Monty Python's school of managing society or something. They're completely bonkers. But above them somewhere, like you look at what the world now. I was thinking this today. They've got mass migration in literally every country, and no one in the country wants it. I think Japan is kicking loads of people out. So who's got the power behind all this? They've changed the education system. Teachers now don't go around and go 2 + 2 = 4. They go, this is the genderbread man. I know you've got a penis, but do you really think you prefer a vagina? Maybe it's inside you. And they're so interested in fucking up the kids, and they believe what they're doing. They totally believe it. So it's almost like two species living next to each other, a huge herd of fuck knuckles, and then this small group of people who are trying to make sense of it. That's how it
and
seems
so
to me.
I have to be very, shout out. I don't know if he's doing well. I hope he is, right? But the ability to sort of kick off the lab here, right, was someone basically gave me a couple of Bitcoin at the time. I was like, oh, and it was enough. It was enough to buy the premises and fill it with the first bits of equipment that I would need to sort of approach this problem, right? And so independently, I was able to sort of, with a
That's a
degree of,
movie, man. That's a movie. That truly,
yeah,
that's like, you know.
and the but his very interesting guy, and he said, as
Right,
this
man.
technocracy begins to sort of tighten its grip, right? How do you survive this all-encompassing system that is going towards, do I think the killing has stopped yet? No, I don't. And if they can light up Europe like they've done in the last sort of 5 years, where you can have trench warfare going on, and now it's sort of, you can watch in 4K drone murders and war crimes, and they're ready to step it up, and that's why you're seeing this next level of deployment coming out. And so I think it's important that you stay abreast of this technology. But this guy he introduced me to this short book. It's just called Archipelago Theory of one of these Bitcoiners of like how to survive against this sort of very corrupt system. And the idea being is that you just sort of build out networks and nodes of your own, such that you can say there's basically like a SHH, right? It's a short socket handshake. You can say that person, you can say, you can go there, and he's basically might be a bit a bit eccentric, but he's going to see you all right with respect to if you have a condition that's a consequence of this system engaging in its control mechanisms. And the most of the world that they have under their thumb already, the one place where there's probably some degree of fight back and where you're seeing a lot of the movement occur is the US. And it wouldn't surprise me that unfortunately that you'll see some form of extended conflict in the US, because there is some degree of independence there still, and they're still armed to the
They're
end.
disarming us now. They already had a massive disarming of Australia after the Port Arthur massacre. But some Muslims decided to shoot up Bondi Beach, and the Prime Minister came out straight away and said, those right-wingers, and never wanted Islam, and now suddenly they're taking whatever weapons they can. Anyone posts on Facebook anything against the government is seen as a sovereign citizen. I've got friends, they turn up and they just remove the guns. So they really are focused on trying to make the people feel helpless, which is annoying, because the people have all the power if they'd only accept the responsibility of it. And it's making me realize that freedom comes with one word: responsibility. You want to be free, you fucking fight for it, brother. Otherwise, because history is basically slaves and kings.
You can say that the jihadi that shot up that beach, right? He was more active and believing in his form of freedom than most of the apathetic West Anglosphere, for want of a better expression. And how many I forgot the name of the Trent was it in New Zealand? That
Oh,
shot
the
up
one
the
that
mosque.
shot the mosques. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
We've got ASIO over here, our spy, our intelligence agency. They've just got new laws gone through, which are just horrendous. They can just pick me off the streets, no lawyer, keep me that. What is it, about 48 hours or more, Paul? But they can take my parents, do it the same to them. And if my mum tells her dad she's been arrested by ASIO, they throw her in jail for a couple of years. I mean, it's
5
just
years.
5 years, insane laws. And
Yeah,
then I look at the
crown
UK. You're
countries.
from the
Yeah.
UK. I was
Mm,
born in Wales. So
mm,
you're looking at the UK, and I've never seen a country so determined to destroy itself.
mm.
That's what it
Well,
looks like with,
no,
you know.
it's not. It's very well orchestrated, and they know that there's a window in which they have to operate and move. And like I say, when I often ask myself, how much is just sort of or planned out to the nth degree, or do they just sort of have a heuristic that just says, okay, we can start, and basically we know the tempo of and the actions that we can predict from large populations, etc., and that's enough for them to go. And once they have the means and control of the bureaucracies, they know that they can game the system to make sure that they come out with the advantages. And again, it comes back to what are they trying to do? And population management. I do think they're trying to just kill a whole bunch of you, or else I should say. And there's all manner of, if you know that's coming, you position yourself so that you can benefit from it. And so, I look at healthcare, and a lot of it is just wealth extraction from people who are going often like the chronic diseases, right? And how I worked, my interest was like Tourette's and trying to help kids, but there was no money in doing that. There was money in helping people with Parkinson's, because they needed like treatment all the time, and those treatments cost, to get a DBS implanted, that's $150,000 just for that one surgery, right? And so they're positioning themselves, and it's like how much becomes its sort of own self-fulfilling prophecy. I don't know, but
Do you
people
think
are.
the
Good money
jabs
out
have
of
affected
cancer.
people? Oh,
So
yeah, that's right.
we should get back to that. But cancer is a good case in point, because we're seeing a lot more cancer now. We know about the DNA contamination from Kevin McCairn and multiple others now. And I'd love to see your work replicated in by other centers, because that's the DNA. If Kevin was the only one who had found it, it would have remained less certain. But as it got replicated over and over again, now we know. Having said that,
But it was vials from Japan and Edogawa Hospital that sort of sealed the argument, because what was happening with Kevin was they were saying, "Oh, you're getting open vials. Of course, there's contamination." And Charles, back then, we thought we were like it felt like we were smuggling like a kilo of smack, right? And we took the vials from Edogawa that was sealed, got them back to Kevin, and he was able to say, sealed bottles, there's the contamination that negates the rebuttal that it's just contamination from the environment. And if it wasn't for Kevin sort of finding that in those vials, basically you were left with a sort of rag bag of indigents who are just buying into graphene oxide and nanotech in the vials, and you sort of, and I think a lot of that was sort of controlled psychological operations, like viruses aren't real, that type of thinking. And it's okay, it's good to question stuff, but when you've sort of left solid ground, and you're trying to deconstruct technical documents, and you're just misreading them. And the real standout one for me at the time was they would sort of pass around, what was her name, Karen Kingston, right? She was like, look, they're talking about graphene, and as their it was a Pfizer study, like trying to look at the trimer product of the vaccine after expression. And so they're doing scanning electron microscopy, and the stage on which they're cutting the sample is basically a sticky graphene bridge. Right, but they just read the spike comes together with graphene, so it must be a graphene nanotech robot that's coming for you and causing all all these massive clots. And I actually think it's far more simple than that. The mechanisms, it's pretty mainstream academic research to say that spike protein is or does cause abnormal amyloidogenic clots. It's not you're not standing out of the mainstream by saying that, and it's
Is that the body reacting to it, like an immune response to the spike
so
protein?
there's the work of Hammerstrom and Nystrom. So that lab as well. If there was a standout lab in through COVID who had sort of like official positions, where you'd have to say Hammerstrom and Nystrom's lab, because they were the ones that first talked about the amyloidogenic sequences on the spike protein. I was talking about it, but I didn't publish it. But they did, and in their archive upload, they basically said it's probably a really bad idea to go and gene transfect these peptides that have these sequences on it, and they were forced to remove that from that ACS publication. And yeah, I know, but they did follow-on work about a year ago, say maybe a bit longer than that now, where what they show, or also there's a body of their work, and this is where the academic side, you have to sort of keep a track on these type of details, because they are important. They point out the amyloidogenicity. They point out that also the area around which neutrophil elastase is capable of binding to the protein, the spike protein, is increased as well relative to other coronaviruses. And another tell that this was abnormal or just out the range of what was to be predicted for this agent, right? And so it's pointing more towards synthetic. And they
Kevin,
basically,
I've got a question because I've got you here. So, can you explain to people what's the difference between amyloid and prion, and in particular, when you talk about amyloidogenic seeding, and because they seem similar, related, but different.
So the best way to think about it, and I came up with this, right, is not all amyloids are prions, right? Have I got it the wrong way around now? But all prions, sorry, are amyloids, but not all amyloids are prion protein, right?
Yes.
And all it means is that the amyloidogenic is just a catch-all for what we think is the mechanism of protein misfolding disorders. And what happens is it can happen to, they've listed about 150 proteins which they've been able to classify as being able to go into an amyloidogenic state. And what that means is when that happens, it starts to aggregate. Usually the canonical view was that it could only bind to like species of protein, the same protein. But there is this phenomenon of cross-seeding that can happen. And basically any protein can sort of go through this transformation where it just starts sticking to other proteins and they aggregate together, and then it's basically the equivalent of like putting sand in the oil of your car, right, or sugar in the petrol tank, and it sort of it gums up cellular processes, and the protein misfolding disorders are now linked with pretty much the whole range of end of life chronic disease and including cancer. And people think about cancer as sort of, oh, it's genetic mutations, that type of thing, and no, the evidence is actually pointing more towards sort of misfolding cascades as being the primary driver that behind these. In some cancers, of course, there's genetic abnormalities as well, but amyloidogenic processes in cancer have only just begun to be sort of formally recognized. But so when I was at university, and I was at Edinburgh University, which was they just opened the specialist Centre for New Variant Creutzfeldt, as they were worried about BSE coming into the food chain. And so as an undergrad, I was sort of exposed to all these, they were top of the field trying to understand what's happening, as they were seeing this beginning of for want of a better expression, the hockey stick emerging as a phenomenon. And what did they mean by that? That the symptoms of Creutzfeldt was emerging in an age cohort that it shouldn't or very rarely be seen. And so in that instance, they called it new variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob. There was that, like I said, they linked it back to the food chain and BSE. There's still a lot of discussion about how BSE emerged, but it did emerge very close to Porton Down again.
Coincidence.
Yeah, and the
You're talking mad cow disease here, aren't you?
Yeah, and the really sad thing is that if you start peeling back these layers and you go back to the sort of first descriptions of, it's such a tragic, horrible story of Kuru, where they were finding this effect in this small island. Yeah, and there's people arguing that it was more a consequence of them introducing vaccines. But then you find out that the sort of academic who was famous for their discovery, Gudjadek, is his name, was one a rabid paedophile, and was just ensconced into Fort Detrick and was allowed to work on the weaponization of prions. And this I know it's such a horrendous backstory, but it just fits with the personality types, I guess, who just warped individuals, right? They're just sort of,
It fits with them being bioweaponeers, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah, and like I say, once you pull on that thread, it all just starts fitting together. And so it's pity Charles isn't here, but he did such an excellent job of actually relaying, and Space Cat Nick as well, just the history of how they were looking at HIV, right? And one of the reasons that HIV is problematic is that in the end stages, you get HIV-acquired neurological disorder, and that's an amyloidogenic disease caused by the GP41 protein and its interaction with I've forgotten it. It's on the tip of my tongue. It'll come to me. But it's an amyloidogenic disease, and we see these segments in SARS-CoV-2 strategically placed. It's not like there was a crossover sequence in some non or inconsequential part of the protein structure. They were placed perfectly within the spike protein to make sure that the amyloidogenic cascade did occur, right? And it's alpha-synuclein. It's the one I was thinking of that it will interact with. And you get back to the Pradhan paper, right? And these extended N-terminal domain loops on the end of the protein, and that it's corollary with HIV. And
they tried to do an Australian vaccine.
yeah, they put the GP41 lock on the spike protein, right? And
Everyone started to test positive for HIV.
yeah,
And they said, oh, don't worry, it's not HIV, but they withdrew it because they were worried about what it would do to vaccine hesitancy.
and no, it's not a benign protein, right? And this is the thing that you sort of.
You mean these epitopes do something? You mean these epitopes might actually have
might be reactive, yeah. And so at the time there was just this drumbeat of the institutes as they tried to shut down debate, which is it's not the virus, it's just a subunit of the virus, and it's just bit protein, right? And then I think it was late 2021, Scripps Institute actually published a paper which showed that, oh no, you can take a small bit of spike protein and it's cytotoxic and will cause tissue damage. Okay, and so well, what's the mechanism that it's causing this tissue damage through? And a lot of it is this peptide interaction and these amyloid like cascades. And are we seeing like the new variant Creutzfeldt? Like for sure, I think that like the threshold has come down for like the age for early onset type disorders. I think there's been it's pretty clear to me that there's been an impact just on population scale reasoning and IQ, I guess. And
that's I was going to ask you that. Do you think it's affecting the brain? We had Peter McCulloch on a few weeks ago. He's adamant that it is.
Yes, it is, of course. Yeah,
so
I mean, I've been standing on that hill for 6 years now, just like pointing to when the mechanisms are they're pretty well understood, and they were understood by bioweaponeers. And I think in this instance, when they pulled the pin on this particular gem, what's called the crime.
Can I give you a real world example? So I'm, as I said, I travel the country and I've been interviewing people about this for years now. I'm in a little caravan park in a country town, and I heard this father wants to come and see me. He's got 3 kids, all in their early 20s, all on pacemakers now, all with myocarditis and all different batches and stuff. So he races through the night to reach me, to talk to me. And yet when he talks to me, he's completely passive. It's like, and I just learned yesterday that my daughter has to go on a pacemaker too. She's 24. Like that, passive. And I'm looking at him trying to find a shred of anger or rage or frustration. And I think I asked him, "Do you angry?" He goes, "Oh, well, you just have to deal the cards you've been dealt, and we've been dealt jokers." And I thought, but mate, you race through the night. Because I said, look, I'll interview in the mornings, like 9 o'clock at night. But he raced through the night to talk to me. And when he talked to me, it was like talking to a marshmallow. And it horrified me. It was like that film Get Out. It was like the person who raced to me was the person inside who wanted to rage. But when, it just didn't make sense from a humanistic point of view.
Well, so there's, I want to say well established, but the propensity for spike protein, regardless of its source, for some reason makes a beeline for the midbrain and dopaminergic type neurons, right? And it's those neurons which are responsible for your ability to switch from one emotional state to another. And a lot of what we're seeing in the patients we are giving out L-DOPA to patients, way more than would be expected. And a lot of that is, are they fully Parkinsonian yet? No, but there's enough signals there and enough. They've gone and spent money on diagnostics, and they know that there's autoantibodies to dopaminergic neurons, cholinergic neurons, and all those receptor types are imperative for the function of corticobasal ganglia networks. And without those, you become a sort of passive monkey, and you sort of,
Lobotomized.
essentially it's a state called
Emotionally
abulia.
lobotomized in a way.
Yeah, it's emotionally lobotomized, a abulia. It's called lack of motivation, where if the rest of the neural architecture is still intact, but you go in and sort of selectively knock out dopamine, then you get these states, and knock it out enough and you go into Parkinsonian end states. And I spent all of my career doing that type of work, and that stuff, I wasn't a bioweaponeer, but like I knew this stuff. And of course these people, when you go and look at the family tree of where people have come from, a lot of it goes back to these programs that were engaged in and funded by biowarfare research, and a lot circled around vaccines. And why were vaccines such a big deal? Because they tied in as countermeasures to perceived threat from other actors in this instance. And so that domain is, what to say, it's embedded deep into the dark infrastructure that sits behind the shiny facade of what to call it, sort of westernized corporate like they'll scream human rights while literally in the background they're working on the most heinous of mechanisms. And
well, this is one of my questions. Oh, you go ahead, Paul. I'll go after you.
Sorry, was it 2 or 3 years ago that there was the Korean study, and they had very large numbers, and they compared COVID vaccinated and unvaccinated populations, and they were seeing a doubling of mild cognitive impairment. This was at 3 months and just 2 shots, and a 22% increase in dementia, and it was the first 2 shots. It was only followed up for 3 months, and they haven't done a follow-up.
Of course.
I'm shaking because I wonder now, with all the additional shots and all this additional passage of time, I suspect the numbers are going to be much, much worse.
You remember that massive heart attack thing they had in Korea, Paul? Remember it made the news for a bit? All these, it was like in some sort of alleyway. There was like 200 people just collapsed with heart attacks. And they just sort of quietened it down and said, oh, it was let's move on.
That's Gangnam Style. Cardiac. Right. It was...
K-pop can be fatal.
Put the pop in the K.
And the thing people have to sort of understand is the heart is very neurogenic tissue. It's highly innervated and linked very strongly to basal ganglia, deep centers. There's a reason that they think about the heart as being sort of linked to emotional processing. And the way that they would do this, I know the group in Emory University, and they basically use rabies virus to sort of track where organs are represented in brain tissue, and this interaction between limbic regions and cardiac is so I don't think they ever fully published it, but it's very strong. And these, of course, you're going to have impact at a societal level, and I see it. The patient base at Edogawa is 450,000 patients. No more. It's 450 bed, and yeah, I want to say it's close to 480,000 as a population that's goes to that hospital for treatment, right? And I think the effects are somewhat, the impact on Japanese is different to what I see coming through the door. You know, that kind of, like, we had our first Parkinsonian Japanese, but then you could say, he's in that age range. But you talk to him, he was like really fit fireman, and you know, they were forced to take 8-9 shots. And I said, how many of
Wow.
how many of your co-workers and stuff developed the same? He said about 20.
What about
Wow.
ivermectin for Parkinson's disease?
Mm,
I've heard
uh,
some people have suggested it helps.
well, just as a, is there mechanisms where it could be useful? Maybe. I think I'd really want to drill down into the actual mechanisms, though, for why it could be working, and it might just be.
I just thought I'd ask you because the combination of ivermectin and Parkinson's and Kevin was too good to pass up.
Well, like we're seeing lots of people taking ivermectin and they're still developing Parkinsonian like conditions, and the just it's the thing that I was sort of, you know, I drew a line in the sand and I was trying to explain to people, this is what you're going to see. And yes, you do see it. But then what does a Parkinsonian bomb look like on a, you know, on a mass deployment scale? And that is this dysregulation of cognition, affect, and it's going to impact some more than others. And the combination of virus and vaccine, I mean, I've got data, we can look at it. We just do I see a difference between vaccine and SARS virus amyloid clots? No, they're very, very similar. I've done a whole bunch of, you know, analytics to just sort of demonstrate that now that we have a sort of enough of a patient base. And the just tragic thing is I'm convinced they knew what they were doing, and the way to do that.
That's my question. Yeah. Because
And
sorry. I'll go after you finished.
well, I was just going to say the if you were to take the, what's his name, Meadows, and he's talking in that speech where he's like, we have to find a meritocratic way of reducing the population from 8 billion to 2 billion. And so the way that you want to do that, and the way that you do that is you lobotomize to a degree the population so that they don't realize what's been done, and then they become more apathetic. It's easier to induce the learned helplessness, and then they become more dependent on the system that's being installed around them. And
over here, most people now work for the government. Every new job is with the government. I mean, it's happening right now. Businesses are going under left, right, and center. But listen, we've interviewed a lot of very clever people, and you, mate, are right up there near the Everest summit of them. I'm telling you. But so my question is, and I'm not blowing wind up mad. You're amazing to listen to, and to get me to shut up takes a lot. So there's you're there, and you're playing catch up with whatever these fuckers have put into this stuff. How many scientists out there in the world would you know of who would have the ability or the capability of not only creating something like this, but knowing that they were creating something that was going to cull a huge percentage of the world? So you're talking about either ideological scientists who think this is like Thanos. They got a Thanos approach, like, yeah, it's bad, but someone has to do it, and I've got the glove. Or they're psychopathic, it's huge amount, they don't care. But for some reason, see, I've got a belief they've got a vision. There's some people with a vision for a better world where the bison are back in the millions, the ocean is full of whales, and all they had to do was get rid of humans, or a lot of humans, to make that happen. I actually believe that is the ultimate goal they want, and they're willing to do what they have to do to get there.
Yeah.
But they'd need a lot of very clever scientists who are of your caliber or even higher. So surely there can't be that many in the world. I mean, I'm not talking millions, but to be that vicious, that focused, and that clever, surely that can be narrowed down.
So let's sort of invert the question a little bit and say, what has it taken to mount an effective intervention? So you could say at a senior level, 4-5 people, and then you've got the operational staff running that ward, and so 10 nurses generally, and two doctors, and within that group there's enough knowledge already to be able to now make. Does everyone within that group fully understand the mechanisms or why they're there doing what they're doing? No, they don't. So actually I think it's quite a small number of people that you need to be able to get into a position where, when they I just had his name on the tip of my tongue and my phone went bing, but the prion invention guy, what's his name, where they were burying, it's not Gedjadek, like he's Kuru, who discovered I was just about to say bloody phones, I hate them. Like how many of him do you need, and then how much resources do you need with respect to HIV? So it's a good parallel with HIV, where why did they put so much effort into what was supposedly just a disease among homosexuals?
Stanley B. Prusner,
that's his name, yes.
Thanks, sir.
And the Los Alamos basically had a whole division devoted to trying to pick apart HIV and understand its properties, because they knew that there was some overlap between these prion amyloidogenic catalyzing diseases, and they knew that it had this it wasn't just the prion itself that was infective in this instance. Once you could load a prion-like hand grenade onto something that could transmit and replicate beyond, like you have to get like scrapey prion into your system in order for it to sort of have an effect. But if you can put it onto a viral backbone, and one that's highly transmissible, then you've basically created a super weapon, and one that when you're looking at the characteristics of how you would want to try and, if you deployed it, how do you get away with it? And this is the dark, really deep, disturbing aspect, is once they understood lentiviral infections, and once they understood the low, you can think of it as like radar cross section of the disease, like CJD, like Parkinson's, even though there's this ongoing protein misfolding, the disease signal in terms of immune markers, etc., is very low, right? And so this, like what they call surreptitious, goes through the population and begins to have a impact. And you have to remember that a lot of times people are coming into contact with it and they were incredibly healthy prior to contact, but within the space of a few weeks their whole life has been taken away from them, yet they haven't died, right? They'll soldier on for another 50 years as they cope with these conditions. And I would put ME, CFS, long COVID, vaccine injury all into that same category, and it's probably contact with these catalyzing epitopes that cause this cascade in the body. And it's become very obvious to me with treatment that you have to also address the autoantibodies. And just as a anecdote, as we were sort of setting up to
before you go on, could you tell us what that is, autoantibodies?
So autoantibodies are where the body will express let's say a viral protein, right? So a viral protein gets into the brain and begins reproducing, and basically it invites the immune system to come and attack that neuron or neural tissue. And because there's sort of molecular overlap, the antibodies will then start attacking that tissue in a sort of constant chronic fashion. And there's not many places that do checking for autoantibodies, but one of the consistent themes that we see is G protein coupled receptors, dopaminergic receptors, and for pretty much all the major systems of the brain, both excitatory and inhibitory. And so you get a infective event happen. There's this molecular crossover that occurs and molecular similarity. And that was one of the first things about COVID, was that it had this molecular similarity. It was just too close to human tissue. It's like the ENaC receptor binding that's just sort of sitting behind the furin cleavage site, right? And just so happened to have a propensity for human sodium channel receptors, so that it could bind in this instance. And who did I find that out from? Jeffrey Sachs, right? And for all he's a sort of polarizing figure. I actually think he's been very articulate during the COVID period. He's sort of voiced his objections to the wars that have been lit up around it, and I guess here we are. But he actually did a good job of beginning the process of saying, "Oi, this WHO investigation into the origins of COVID, this thing's as bent as a 9-bob note." And so
what you're talking about is a slow depopulation bomb. One that takes several years, maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years, knocking everybody off. Everyone thinks it can't be the jab. I had that years ago, and bang, they go. So we wake up every morning now, and there's an 18-year-old taekwondo star who just won a gold medal.
Oh my God! Someone, I don't know who it was. What's his name? Musk something on Twitter. His father just passed away, but he just did a list yesterday, I think, of like all young athletes who just passed away in August.
Yeah,
it's
a huge amount.
Yeah, I'm like, Jesus. But am I surprised by that? No, I'm not, because so this is something that I found.
So why is it taking out the fit? Why is it taking out the super fit?
Question. So
with heart attack.
They're putting
Paul, remember that guy? Remember that Scottish guy? He was a bike race. He got a puncture or something, or his tire was flat, and he still won the fucking race.
That's right.
And then that night he had a heart attack and died. And everyone's going, "Oh, what a shame," and move on. But no, wait on. That doesn't make any sense. So why are the fit collapsing?
So one, just the cardiovascular and nervous system, they're putting under extreme load. And so the more you go to that edge, the more chance there is of some chaotic event occurring in what is a very, we're very good at talking about receptors, neurotransmitters, anatomy, but we're not so good at interpreting the electrical field component of, and that's another thing of biology that's just been messed up by the nano dorks, just trying to coat everything in graphene. It's really irritating. But the that distortion in that very, very complex interaction, electromagnetic, electrochemical signaling, once it's sort of at an extreme, it just goes and snaps and breaks. And that's what once you interact with dopamine and the monoamine transmitter systems, the heart is highly dependent upon them, and it's a multi-layered attack from even if you just took spike protein and removed all the other problematic proteins that come from the virus that we know causing amyloidogenic consequences. Like there's the open reading frame 10, which sits right at the end of the genome, right? That's not there either on any other of the coronaviruses, but yeah, it's got this add-on to it that has this highly amyloidogenic protein. I can't remember which one now. It's so long since I looked at those manuscripts. Fucking hell. I don't know, did you hear that? But I just man, that was like a gun going off right next to me. It was just lightning strike. I'm like, I'd have got me.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm talking
Speaking
too
of
much.
electricity,
Yeah.
Did you remember to paint your roof blue? Did you remember to do that?
Actually, funnily enough, it is blue.
That's what it is. It's just
yeah.
missed you. Someone next to you just turned on their rice cooker and is now in heaven. So,
well, I'm really pleased that what you guys are doing in Japan has got some coverage. I mean, we're shadow banned badly too, but I did see that you got on with Mary Telly Bowden
Yeah, she's been a trooper. Yeah,
and others. And I saw Jack Cruz made a post about your work, and he was actually quite upbeat because he was speaking as if, well, this is just the start. We will eventually find less invasive ways of
like I say, the thing is like you've been given the codex now of how to treat it, right? And it'll get better. Look, deep brain stimulation took years to refine and get right so that it became the gold standard treatment for movement disorders and Parkinson's, right? And we're at that stage now, and in terms of a therapy that can have, like, you can, if you get DBS right, you can take someone who's highly Parkinsonian, and at a flick of a switch, the symptoms sort of go away. They stop trembling, and they get some of their old self back. And in terms of the turnaround, it's literally like that. So I basically, because I'm far away from the lab, the hospital, and I'm bringing samples back to the lab, I see patients like once a week, and I can see the change as these people are coming in. They're literally winding the clock back 20 years.
wow.
And yeah, you just sort of look at them and you're like,
We've seen
oh
it
wow.
on Twitter with your patients. I've been following your patients. You're seeing it on them, the ones that post.
How much of it is the stem cells, do you think?
I think a lot. So that was one of the first things that I tested where it had an impact on the amyloid cascade under RT quick conditions. And I wasn't expecting that. And, Dr. Kato said to me, he was like, he was the one that suggested it. I was like going through testing all these flavonoids and trying to find, some pharma type approach, I guess, nutraceutical type approach to interacting with that spike protein. And I never really saw anything convincing. But stem cell growth factors, that worked straight off the bat. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. And I really wasn't expecting it. I'd worked with stem cells for trying to replace dopaminergic neurons when I first started my PhD, and they were just so fickle as a treatment, trying to get the dopamine. You have to get the pluripotent cells and transform them into dopaminergic neurons. And then in order for dopaminergic neurons to survive, they're very sensitive about how they sort of grow out dendritic processes and stuff. And as soon as you try to lift them off the growth medium, they would just die. And the loss was always sort of catastrophic. And so I'd bang my head against the proverbial brick wall with that methodology very early on, as they were back in the 90s or just early 2000s. And that's nearly 30 years ago. It's terrible. And so I was skeptical about just the results, and no, it worked. And so you've got this preclinical data that's, oh, okay, you could write a manuscript about that. That's good.
Do you have
And
any
then
idea how it works yet?
I mean, I have ideas, but like to do the experiments that would pin it down, like that experiment to find the effect from stem cell growth factors, that's $10,000 plate in the reader, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
You're going to need more Bitcoin.
Yeah. And
that's just for one
96 well plate with all the reagents in that you need. And if you said you got one off, you got to buy the machine as well, right? So you're looking at $60,000 experiment just straight off. So there's a reason why people don't reproduce it, right?
Yeah.
It's tough. It's not something that you're going to get in the coming out of like little clinics. I was just fortunate, unfortunate. Would I want to be in an institute now? No, not really. I think I'd be.
That's fascinating. I had no idea that it was an observation in your RT Quick experiments. So
Yeah.
it was an observation, and then you translated it into part of the treatment protocol. And wow, that's fascinating. We do need to get funding for your.
Look, right now, I've got a bill for it's $200,000. It's to now look. I was like looking at it. I'm like, yeah, I could build it, right? Or I could literally get like $200,000 would pay for like a swarm of postdocs, right? To sort of make the something that's similar capabilities, probably not as refined, but I looked under the hood and I'm like, a couple of Arduinos and Raspberry Pis and some optics and tubing, and off to the races. And that was microfluidics was my thing for getting into the brain and modifying it, right? So it's not like I'm sort of stepping into the complete unknowns. But then you're like, why are we trying to do that? Because it takes so long to do the methodologies of quantifying the amyloidogenic clots, right, from patients, that it's a week-long process if I'm devoted for like one person, basically. And the time to do it is extraordinary, lab time, reagent time. And so we want a higher throughput technique, and the way to do it is flow cells. And we can get flow cell that will detect thioflavin stained objects, which is $200,000. And
I reckon the way for you to raise money, I haven't actually asked you, and I usually do, because it's clear. I mean, I don't know, but I'm guessing your past, where you came from young, you're probably born on a housing estate or something like that, or I don't know.
Pretty close.
Yeah. So you've got the same genius as that. What's that guy? McQueen. the fashion designer. You know, born on a housing estate in Scotland, became one of the
No,
great fashion designers. Went on with that. I can see you're missing the fashion aspect, but the thing is, but the thing is, you're just a born brainiac, and here you are. And I think that's a story that could actually see people getting behind you like a hero. It's the marketing version of that, because the world is screaming for heroes. That there really is. And we got the flawed one with Trump, who people wake up, is he good or bad? They don't know. We got Kennedy, and we just don't know who to trust.
That's
But the thing is,
thing,
you
right?
know what you're talking about to a degree. You know, I mean,
look how that's imploded. Maha's imploded, right?
Yeah, I know.
What happened to no more wars? Right?
I know. This is power, man. There's a power in the. I don't know who's in power. I know you think it's the Jews. Could be the Jews. I don't know if it's aliens. I don't know who the hell it is. We could be in a simulation. There's some 15-year-old squid on planet Pluto playing me, for all I know. And there's to go back to that.
To go back to that point, and it's something that, you know, I was like the first one to be raising that as well, right? It's not. I lived in Israel, right, and I was did a lot of good work there. But the simple fact is, when you look at the scope of the wars, when you look at how COVID came out, who got hit hardest, right? Oh, that's Iranians. Iranians. It took out a third of their leadership, senior positions.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. And Russians.
No, I hadn't heard that. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and now you're watching the displacement and real-time genocide of people taking place, and you're watching the Overton window move to where, you know, people in America are suddenly going, well, hang on a minute, who is this AIPAC, right? And you're finding out all these sort of power play games, and then you just ask the question, well, who's not a signatory to the chemical warfare conventions? There's two countries that have that capability and don't comply. One is United States. After 9/11, they don't allow inspection of their biological capabilities. The other is Israel. Okay? And so I'm looking. You don't have to be a brainiac to look at the geopolitical events ongoing right now and just say, okay, that's how they're deploying warfare. It's one aspect, very big aspect. And it was a big aspect of the Second World War, a big aspect of the First World War, and it's been driving global events for a long time. And you watched people curl up at the mention of it, and eventually
the thing is, you can't question anything anymore over here now. I mean, this sort of language now can see Asia knocking on your doorstep.
After Bondi, right?
Yeah,
you can't do it. And so that's crown countries flexing in a way that they are.
Just like the English. I mean, if you're in England now, you can't say anything against Islam. You know, it's power, and over here it's the woke. I mean, trans people are like unicorns. You can't do anything about them. You know what I mean? But think how real powers are across everywhere.
Yeah, and so think how many years that it took to plan that degree of subversion.
Yeah,
to get a hold. And so these are multi-generational strategic plans who are being deployed again by rabid eugenicists, religious ideological fanatics, and the fallout from that is exactly what, if I had to just sort of list, what would you expect if you added all those components together? You get what you see right now. Right. And I come from
it's interesting. You listen to Elon and you listen to Elon and say, even Steve Jobs, who's gone, these men started huge corporations, and Elon's got loads of corporations, but he doesn't do committees. He doesn't do meetings. Basically, he's in charge. And what I'm thinking with this, whoever's behind this isn't a huge committee. It's a lot of people doing what they're told. But at the head of it, I believe you. I think there's a small, dedicated, powerful group of people,
Yeah,
or
but like
something.
just
Yeah,
look at what happened around Epstein, right?
exactly.
Well, you just okay, and it's like in your face, right up to the point where okay, even the royals in the UK have to admit, well, okay, well, probably
See,
go
Andy.
yeah, a bit too far, and you know he'll go
But
off and
the only one in jail is her, Maxwell.
uh, yeah,
He's dead. Hung himself with his toothbrush.
yeah,
She's in jail, and
mm,
that's it. No other powerful people have been touched. It's almost
mm,
like they're slapping us in the face. What are
yeah,
you going to do? You know
yeah,
what I
and
mean?
that's
And I think they got a replacement. Plantair is taken over, and
mm,
Epstein is like,
yeah,
it's
and
old school. I was thrown
they
away. Same as
they
Fauci.
um were how would you say that? Like I say, I think there's just been this very orchestrated. That's like orchestrated, is probably a bit too strong word. They laid out a direction to go, and you could argue that that goes back to Old Testament and New Testament and all that followed through with it. That you had people sort of bite into and shape their lives in that way. And the thing is, I don't want to sit here and sort of slam people's religious proclivities, right? Because the simple fact is, I've been around and like looked at them, and you know, they're not all bad. And you know,
No, no, they're
am
not.
I responsible for the predations of the crown? No, right? And I'd feel pretty miffed if someone said that. Well, you are, and you know, but you see how absurd it is when people say, "Oh, you know, you have generational guilt for slavery." No, I don't. Just hold your horses, and the
But it's deep in that. Look at, say, think back. Like, I'm 60 now. You look at, say, the United Nations. I've never seen them effectively do anything together in my entire life until
mm,
this.
mm,
Suddenly, everyone's got vaccine passports, which all look the same.
mm,
Everyone's got these plastic screens in front of you, the dots everywhere. Everything was orchestrated. Those people were following orders from someone else. They
mm,
weren't questioning it. There was no debate. I never
mm,
saw any politicians or United Nations never even had a debate about doing this. They
mm,
just
mm,
did it. And I think there was one African leader who was basically doing PCR tests on goats and mangoes
mm.
and coming up positive. And he was saying, "Look, the mango's
Yeah, but
positive."
like
And the next day he was dead. And
Eritrean PCR testing, I'm sure is top notch. So
yeah,
um,
the PCR test guy himself went over. I mean, this is really
like
you
no,
can't
but
walk away
yeah,
from this. This is it. Humans do not do as they're told
mm,
to this degree. All the countries, unless someone above them who's far more powerful, who terrifies them, tells them
mm.
to do it, and they do it. And I don't
Yeah,
even believe it's
that's
for money. I think it's
that's
something
what's
else.
yeah, it's ideological capture, right? You're
Yeah,
going because they have money, they control money, right? And so I tell people, you saw an exercise of power, the likes of
mm,
which has never been seen before. On this,
agreed.
they stopped the planet, right,
Yeah,
and pivoted,
yeah. The
and
planet.
yeah,
That's
the
the
whole
best
planet.
quote I've ever heard. Who out there has the power to stop the planet? Because
Mm,
and that includes China and
mm,
Russia. They stopped the entire planet. Who has
mm,
the power to do that? It's not Trump.
mm.
Yeah, I don't even think it's the Jews. I think it's somewhere above them all. It's a small group of, you know.
I, I, again, like you can probably find some from each group to like choose your or pick your poison, right? But
Yeah,
the point is that you did see that effect go, or the manifestation of raw unadulterated grab you by the scruff of the neck and rub your face in the dirt, power exercise. And you
yeah,
still are, as they've gone into like this is the whole thing around sort of next gen warfare and
yeah,
how they do it, how they initiate it, and it's the global geopolitical events have all fractured along those lines, and here we
yeah.
are. Here we right. That's
Can I tell you some mad things about Australia? Because I was in Melbourne. You remember the shooting at the Shrine, where they shot people at the Shrine of I was all there. I went through all that, but the reason Melbourne was particularly insane. There's a suburb, a very poor suburb.
Oh, you're on about when they
Werribee.
were using the anti-riot gear on the protesters?
Yeah. Armored cars in the streets for our safety. Got shot by a rubber bullet for my safety. And there's anyway, there's a suburb called Werribee. It's just a poor suburb in out of Melbourne. And they go, the vaccines aren't causing heart attacks. There's no heart attacks. Everything's fine, safe and effective. And yet they installed a defib every 400 meters. So if you timed your heart attack properly, you could defib your way to the hospital. Like,
who was the Australian politician?
Dan Andrews.
But the one that got Bell's palsy, I think it was.
Oh yeah, we talk about him with his eye got safe and effective, and then he's got a patch, and now we never see him.
But that was an AstraZeneca one, right? And
and he still says safe and effective. I mean, it's just. I'll tell you one of the maddest things. I'll tell you how mad it is. Because I hit the road to interview people in towns. We came to this tiny town called Ceduna, and no, not Ceduna, Norseman. Most people don't even know it exists. It's a tiny little town. And a lot of indigenous there, so they're very, very security cautious. They got a defib, but to make sure the defib doesn't get stolen, they've got it encased in this steel mesh cage, and it's got a padlock on it. It's got a padlock on it. That's a twist padlock. You know, this way, and the sign says, if you're having a heart attack, call 000, mention your location, and get the numbers to unlock. This is while you're having a heart attack. That's before you even reach the defib. So you're going, you're having a heart attack, you're going 3 to the left, 4 to the right, and then you've got this defib, and you've got to learn how to. And then they go, nothing's wrong, everything's fine. There's a madness together. Paul.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Paul Oosterhouse here. The reason he got really in trouble wasn't memes, but we had a guy called Hazard, and Hazard was like the health officer of what was his position, Paul?
He
Brad
was the
Hazard.
Health Minister in New South
Yeah,
Wales.
Hazard by name, Hazard by nature. Anyway, he got 25,000 kids together. He was celebrating how he was going to vaccinate 25,000 children in a stadium. No parents were allowed in.
I remember.
Paul got stuck into him. And you tell the question, Paul. This is what you really did, mate.
I was furious that day because I didn't think those kids. I tweeted him with a chart of the infection mortality rate by age, because there was a 1,000-fold difference between like 80-year-olds and 8-year-olds, and these were teenagers, and it was I think it was 0.0016%, and I multiplied that by the 24,000 kids and said, Brad, not a single one of these kids on these numbers will die of COVID. If you have even one death amongst them, you have a signal of harm. And if you're not watching for it, you will be held culpable. 2 hours later, I got the call from the medical board. I'd suddenly become a dangerous practitioner, despite practicing without any complaints for 32 years. So it was clearly political, but it was the kids. I was motivated because I saw the kids being put in harm's way, and they didn't need to. No one needed to because we had early treatment.
No, and I think, look, people always say to me, like, if it was a biowarfare agent, well, where's the the countermeasure, and what are they doing to protect themselves? And the thing is, I think, well, we've stumbled across the countermeasure, right? And if you essentially have access to infinite resources, for sure as shit, you can get a 6-month turnaround and wash everything out. And that you can get access to what is it called? Fusion and peptide fusion inhibitors, and you can get your hydroxychloroquine, and when the sort of storm is going to break, and of course you can get through it and probably make bank while you're doing it. right?
Yeah.
Just for, they don't even need the money, but it's just like they're
No.
playing slot machines down the arcade. And the harms are palpable, right? Just even now, right? Of course you had the increased all-cause mortality, and people will argue about what was the actual cause of the all-cause mortality. But I always make the point that SARS as an agent was not meant to kill or kill quickly. It's meant to
Yeah.
incapacitate and make you easier to be manipulated and controlled. And they were successful. It's that
Yeah, they
simple.
were.
Mm,
Yeah, I remember I interviewed a priest here in Perth actually, and he was Polish. He didn't take it, and he said to me, he's got about 100 parishioners, and it wasn't a big church, who are vaccine injured, and they won't go to a doctor. They won't tell anyone because they're so terrified of being seen as anti-vaxxers.
mm,
So they'd rather die than admit that the vaccine had injured them. And
mm.
that's what's happening in Australia. Shane Moore and other people, his son came out and said he died of the jab. No one cares. You know, they got on the radio. He had experts blaming chamomile tea, that Shane Moore died because he drank too much. I heard that with my own ears in a car.
I do remember
Screaming
that.
at the radio.
I do remember
That's what
that.
they said. Oh, he drank a
Yeah.
lot of chamomile tea. And if you drink a lot of chamomile tea, you know, it's... And you're just screaming at the radio. You know, it's amazing cops didn't pull you over.
Mm.
That's, and all the other things going, yeah, you know, I drink
You know,
peppermint. I always
the
think I'm on
nodding
the edge,
head.
but yeah.
There's just it was rancid time, right? And very few people.
We should try wrap up with hope, and you are hope because you're out there doing something. I mean, you literally could be working for them. I mean, amazed they haven't hired you. Go, hey, Kevin, you know, do you want your own planet or something? How about we give you Australia? Because we no one left, it can be yours. There's and so you could be working for them, but here you are trying to do the right fight. Where do you see the hope?
Well, like I said, I think because of the results that we see, it's very obvious to me that there is a methodology to reverse much of the damage. Can it be all? No, effective is 100%. Are we going to get back to normal? But we're seeing people that just are literally bedbound, suddenly up and about walking, and
That's great.
you know, it's the turnaround is quite amazing to watch. And you know, I said to Dr. Kato, I was like the other week, did you really expect it to sort of work this well? He was like, no, I wasn't expecting this. And like I say, just this 29-year-old whose life's been destroyed by POTS, and after a second treatment is gone, right? And
That's hope, brother.
yeah, and
That
so
is amazing.
I can just like share some data, right? Just to sort of let you. I'll do like the quick version, right?
Sure.
And how many slides did I get in here in the end?
The cafe is a little bit like the McCairn dojo. We might swear a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think I have the leaderboard for the most accounts taken down by. It's Project Halo. That's who were the big group, right? Where they were paying many to sort of game the system. But
while you're looking for the slide, if you want to contact Kevin, you contact him there. If you want blood analysis done, it's there. Over here now, we often work with a guy called David Nixon as well. He does blood analysis. He can't tell vaccinated blood from unvaccinated blood anymore, he claims.
Yeah, it looks the same. I'll show that right now. But he's a somewhat nanobot tarded, right? But let's do this. Slides and PDFs. And computer. PowerPoint. Oh, I have to upload it? All right.
Oh no,
Wait
I
a
think you
sec.
just put it there. It'll come up, and then you don't have to upload it. It'll come up, and I'll just click it onto the screen. You can go from there.
It's asking me to upload for some reason. Hang on. Let me just save it as a PDF so it's not so obnoxiously large.
That must be an incredible feeling to see that girl get up, because the amount of accident injured people over here that are just wasting away. And
yeah, just like I didn't get to see it, but like I know I spoke to her last week. She just started treatment, and she was like, I can't. They were talking about like, Japanese houses, and like she was struggling. It's hot. The weather here is brutal, and
David's actually moved away from the nanobots now. He's
hopefully slapped some sense into him over the years, but but
I think he's like you. He's just trying to
if
if
that's your data interpretation, then okay, and you're going to stand by it. Then
he hasn't had your experience with cholesterol crystal behavior.
Yeah, and who does again it's small groups who would have the cross discipline, and I learned so much of so many other people doing this, right? It's just I was what's the word, just once they started with that Nature manuscript article about me, I was like, oh, this is on. And I just went at them like that. So can I just copy that over? Did that work? No. All right, let's try again.
Is it on yet?
No. But if I say open.
No, I don't think they are, Sharon. Sharon Bailey's asking if anyone's doing your treatment protocols in Australia, but I don't think they are they?
No, we haven't had any Australians. It's surprising, really, because you would think the time zone and what have you, it's not too bad to get here.
Yeah.
And I know that, like, Australia is just being like you're getting cold. Yeah, the prison colony, and they deployed it en masse there, right? And the harms that have been done are off the chart.
Here we go.
But yeah, I think that's working, right? So how do I
I'll just get the banner out of the way.
I'll just go through this. You don't need to, like, we all know the history and what have you. We've discussed that enough. Actually, I'm just going to go back and make a point about this, right? So this is Hammerstrom. I didn't quite get to this point, but this paper still sits on the archive, right? SARS-CoV-2 spike amyloid fibrils specifically and selectively accelerate amyloid fibril formation of human prion protein and amyloid beta peptide, right? And they look at spike sequence, spike 32, 20 amino acid long sequence, sits just at the end of the S1 segment after being cleaved. And what they show, and this is its activity, they show, this is a different group, this is published in between, that fibrinogen acts as a sink to the prion form of scrapie or PRP. So if a PRP protein goes into the amyloidogenic form, which would go on to cause Creutzfeldt, fibrinogen is there as a protective mechanism. Okay, and where do we see the pathology arising with the spike protein? And Hammerstrom. So this is Pistorius. Their work, of course, they were very remote, Charles. But did I not put it in here? I wanted to show their. Pretty sure I had it, but. They just show, Hammerstrom and Nystrom published that the spike protein binds to and causes fibrinogen malformation and goes into this amyloidogenic state. And again, from a systems perspective, is from an evolutionary perspective, is it better to sacrifice fibrinogen and have this sort of clock cascades and take your chances with that, rather than having a mass prion extinction event, which is a thing? Okay, you can look in the published literature, and yeah, there's a mark in our genomics. I want to say it's the prion protein that there was a mass extinction event. They want to say about 40,000 years, caused by well, theory is that the population dropped because of mass spread of Creutzfeldt. But we know lots about the disease. I'll just buzz past this. This is all. Let's get to clots. Right. So here we are. Right. So this is the system that we're using. It's made by a company called Asai. It's Immusorber TR350. It's specific for neuropathy, and it was the one thing that I keyed in on when we were sort of trying to pick out the therapy. And I was Jojo was like passing me this list as we're thinking about patient N2, and I've got the symptom profiles. I'm looking at it, I'm going through, and I see this one, and it's for neuropathy, acidic chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy, and Bell's palsy they use it for, and myasthenia gravis. I was like, choose that one, grab the autoantibodies for that, and that's what this one is doing. And yeah, here you can see the approach that we use. It goes into the next triple lumen catheter, and this is blood before treatment. It has high background fluorescence, right? False color image of it. And this is after, right? And you just see that it's blue is less reactive, and as you go towards yellow red, it's more reactive. And so this was like our first patient where we were like, we've keyed in on whether therapy is working. And we'd never seen this with the EBU or any of the other sort of commonly used filtration techniques, and combination of SGF and the filtration. And we were let's just skip this. If I had more, this is just boring, like technicalities of like how to sort of look and start quantifying data. But I wanted to sort of show this, which is where do looking at this pathology, where does it cluster? Can you pull out groups and say, does vaccine injury look different to COVID injury? And at the level of the amyloid disruption in the blood, there's no. It almost looks like it's doing it, but not. It's not statistically significant yet. It was close. I was looking at that and I was like, you can sort of see a cardioid type centroid, and it's not quite there. And this approach called principal component analysis, which sort of helps you look at sort of higher dimensional activity and just complex activity, and bring it down, see if there is differences or causal attributions. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. We'll blast past the math. But if you send blood for being tested now, like we have enough where we can just auto machine detect the clot burden and give you like a score, tell you where you plot on that. And these are different people who have gone through. And if
they sent their blood through from Australia, just have their blood tested, what would they be looking at? Money-wise?
So basically, because of the demand, I used to charge $300, but there's so many people wanting to do it. I basically say, okay, there's an expedited queue and the standard queue, and if you pay $500, I'll try and look at your blood within 7 to 14 days. And then those people are usually the ones that are filling up the spots in the hospital. And we're running at sort of, there's not many spaces left for this year. And we're already filling out for next year. Like I say, this week we've rolled into 60, and there's so many youngsters who have been hit by the neurocovid and the POTS, and we've seen the very difficult cases get turned around, and
Yeah, we
that
interviewed a young father whose 21-year-old athlete son had to have a heart transplant. That was the first heart transplant we dealt with. Yeah.
Awful.
bastard.
I don't know how he survived. It was a horrendous.
Mm,
He was in hospital forever. But yeah, I
shocking.
know, man. Yeah, I know. And the father was a radiologist, Paul?
Radiographer, I think.
Radiographer. Yeah, the father was in the medical thing, and he was. Yeah, it was a hell of an episode.
So this is just measures of spike protein antibodies, which people look at. So we see a significant change after filtration. So it does modify that. We have had one person sort of revert somewhat, but most people's antibodies are dropping sort of 20-30% after treatment. And these are cytokines. Now, blue is pre, post.
Wow.
This is off. Yeah.
That's good.
So
Yeah.
getting all that inflammatory goop out of your system.
Yeah. And so
Wow.
it's specifically designed to pull out antibody aggregates, and those aggregates are triggers for the inflammatory cytokine cascades. And so if interleukin 6 is dropping down, that's a good sign. And where was it? Interferon is dropping, and tumor necrosis factor, interferon alpha dropping, and tumor necrosis factor is another big one that we see drop. People say, well, of course, you've just filtered the blood. Well, yeah, we've just filtered the blood. That's what we're trying to do, trying to clean it up
That's right.
and give you a sporting chance, right? And
Yeah.
you're getting very, very high doses of these stem cell growth factors. And I get if I get like half a dose that these people are getting, like I'm awake for days.
Wow.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Paul, of what you're seeing as the doctor you are?
Well, it's just a documentation.
Closer to the mic.
It's just a documentation that it's working. That it's doing
Yeah.
what you wanted it to do. I mean, you've got all these immune complexes and cytokines, and they're not benefiting these people. So you get it out, and they feel better. That shouldn't be a surprise.
Not rocket science.
No, and the cytokine levels it's very mixed across the group. I hoped it would be a better marker, but we're doing a very broad panel, 21 cytokines, and perhaps if we did just like a smaller one for interferon and TNF and IL-6, it might be more practical. But it's labor intensive, it's expensive, and I've basically said to people, I've seen the data, like, save your money, and don't it's not worth it will go down, basically. So I just got kicked out.
No, you're here. I can see you. Oh. What a fucking guy. I feel like I'm watching Doctor Who. He's like off that sort of level. You know what I mean?
I thought you guys would get on both being.
Oh, yeah. I love him. I friggin' love him. I mean, to be honest, maybe more than a third of what he said tonight, I have no idea what he's talking about. No idea. But I don't mind, because I know he does, and that's all that matters. And but how about yourself?
Well, look, I've been following Kevin for years now, and so like I picked up quite a few extra snippets of like how he came across the stem cell growth factors. Uh, it's an amazing story. I think it's almost like a historic story.
Yeah, I
Um,
think so too. That's what we're
I think
watching,
I
watching
think
something.
I think and
Even Dr. Dan's asking a question.
yes,
It's 6 months. 6 months, they said, Dr. Dan, and but he's trying to get it to 6 months to a year. You know, no, not the next day. It's about 6 months, he said. And but what he said was it changes with he's back in.
Yeah, it just took me out.
There you go.
It gave me a
it's probably
404.
Asia. It's probably Asia. We blame Asia for all
Yeah.
of the disruption.
Could be anyone for all we know.
I was just getting to the good bit.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Actually, I just want to. What is there to show after that? I mean, like we see reductions, like antibody reductions, cytokine reductions. Well, I mean, there's just the X-rays of congestive heart failure, and it being reversed. And
So another doctor over here was asking, how long does it work? Do those levels go back the next day? I told him I thought it was about 6 months, but how long? Do
yeah,
those
I
levels
think
go down?
like right now it seems persistent. We had like patient Bob who was just like after first treatment, he was just like, whoa, like ran
Patient
6
Bob.
miles. Yeah, and you can follow him on Twitter. And he was like, oh, I'm regressing and what have you. And then he went to do therapeutic plasma exchange, and he was like, nah, it's nowhere near as effective as Japan treatment.
Yeah.
And basically, I just say to people, like, you've done the first treatment, right? What you should do now is just, like, if you feel it regressing, you come back for that week, right? And the price you paid probably for TPE, you could have flown in and flown out of Japan and got the treatment here. And
Well, flying to Japan from Australia is really cheap. In fact, I think they were offering free tickets at one point. You can actually fly to Japan for free. That's one at Australians. I don't know why. That's what I don't know what it is now, but that's what they were offering. Yeah, Japan's great. Go to Japan. What the hell? You know?
Yeah, it's, the US is all like people that from the US are just sort of like, wow, okay, I see what next stage civilization looks like with proper healthcare. And yeah, it's we're seeing, like I said, we're seeing turnaround after turnaround, and we're 60 patients in, and
that's actually some of the best news we've had in a long, long time.
Yeah,
if you're
the thing is,
injured.
yeah, and long COVID, we take all. I mean,
do you think long COVID's real, or is long COVID just the politically correct way of saying you're vaccine injured?
No, there's definitely long COVID. We have many who have haven't touched vaccines, and they're just as messed up. And
wow!
In fact,
thanks.
Yeah, I would say some of the worst neural injury I've seen in terms of just lesion was AstraZeneca and long COVID.
Wow.
Whereas the lipid nanoparticle just seems to be more blood orientated. What I would say to people is do not do IVIG.
Do not do what?
IVIG treatments. Like the blood that we people do that. They do nothing. I felt worse, and their blood just looks terrible when we get it. Yeah, it's just like it's the Western approach of just adding more synthetic stuff, right, to try to treat treatments. It's a very sort of ingrained way of thinking, whereas our approach is actually, now we're going to remove a whole bunch and try to just put, what would be the natural spectrum of growth factors back in, right? And
this is the organic, certified organic.
yeah, I guess.
Organic from children's teeth.
Just before you go, I just want to put up. I want to put up those banners again. If you want to reach out to Kevin, let me get it here. You want to contact him here? I think that's the hospital.
Yeah, so there's an email contact form at the bottom. of that
Yeah.
page. Right, that's an
Yep,
easy
and
way
I'll
to
put
get
them in the
them.
show notes too, but that's there. But I'll get them in the show notes later tonight. For blood analysis coming here, if you want to express, it's about 500 Australian. If you want to wait, it's 300 Australian. And
No,
and then
US.
there's it's
US.
about, was it the other way? Oh, US. Oh, it's US. Okay. And the other thing too is how much is the actual treatment? What would they be looking for the
So
actual?
basically, it's dependent upon how much SGF you're taking, but like all wrapped together, for the work that I'm doing, the work the hospital's doing, you can say 11 to 15,000 US dollars per week.
11,
And
15,000 US dollars. Okay.
and there's a little on the expensive side, but it works.
About 30 grand.
And
Yeah.
the if I didn't think it was having the impact that I wouldn't be here talking. And but I've
Better than waiting around to die.
Yeah, that's the thing. These people have been pushed from pillar
That's
to
what they're
post.
doing.
Yeah. Just kick the can
Yeah.
down the road strategy.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, let me just share the for Paul, just to see the reduction in sort of congestive heart. This.
I've got
Oh,
one
that's
comment
still
here
in there.
from Dr. Dan. Jordan Peterson nearly died from this type of snake oil treatment. There you go. There's some positivity.
Dr. Dan's our resident troll. He's
Oh, yeah.
he's a cardiologist.
Yeah. He was benzo withdrawal, right? And but you know, that we have our patients. They come in the morning and they walk out of an afternoon, and and on a stem cell only day, it's an hour, and it and what Jordan Peterson had anyway. So, but let me just
there we go. So anyway, I'll put up the thing here. If you're interested, contact Kevin. I'm going to say it here again. Look, to be honest, I have loads of people contacting me wanting to sell treatments. I never let them on. So you're actually the first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you are, man. Because
Okay.
they just say, "Oh, this has been tested everywhere, it fixes everything." I go, "Okay."
Yeah, I've seen all those, tested them, doesn't work.
Yeah.
But let's see, here. There. Pre-treatment after DFP.
Is that the heart I'm looking at?
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, that's quite.
So it's really swollen on the left.
So all that sort of cloudy shadow around the heart, that's I think of it as just blood that's moving slowly through the pulmonary what's it, pulmonary aorta.
Just wait, I gotta go. So Dr. Dan says, if he's convinced it works, run a placebo trial, like they did with the vaccine.
Yeah.
Huh? Like they did with the vaccine, Dr. Dan.
Who's paying for that?
Yeah, Dr. Dan's a cardiologist. He can see the difference himself too.
Yeah, come on, Dr. Dan. Look at that. Look at that on the screen. Yeah.
And we've had 3 patients like this.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, it was hard for me to accept that the vascular could, blocking the vessels could cause the whole myriad of long COVID and vaccine injury. But this is a good demonstration. You know, how does it treat heart failure? Well, it's probably easier to see that with heart failure. But wow, yeah, that's dramatic.
And this patient in particular was just like, I just want a couple more years with my young boy. That was it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, man. And that's it. A couple of more years with my young boy.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
Well, I have to say, is there anything else you want to show us? Because I have to say, this is we often do 2 hours. We've never. It's very rare we do 2:49. But it's been so great to have you on. You do remind
there
me
you
of
go.
like a Doctor Who.
That's the first time someone
That's
said that.
good.
It's usually here you can see. So this lady was just
Wow.
very prodromal, so like on the left before treatment, and then after she was just rejuvenated, and yeah, you just see people.
I'm gonna have some fun with Dr. Dan. Yeah, Dr. Dan says you complained about being safe and effective. How do you know this is safe and effective? If your fucking vaccine was safe and effective, we wouldn't be talking to Kevin in the first place.
yeah. Yep.
That's amazing.
It's a difficult treatment. You know, people have to deal with jet lag and come in, and I did it, and you know, I'd been like COVID
You did
nearly
the treatment.
yeah. So
Did you take the vaccine?
No, and
No.
COVID nearly killed me twice. So last year it gave me 2 pulmonary embolisms.
Wow.
And yeah, it was.
Wow.
I had sort of neuropathy, and I had it a long time. I'd sort of struggled through at university. I got sort of severe MECFS type condition. So I've been sympathetic to people talking about long COVID. I know what it's like to get that. You know, you go from completely normal, doing everything, to 2 weeks after infection, you can barely get to the bathroom without collapsing. And you know, back then there was no help at all. It's just, you got the uppy flu, you get back outside.
So you joined the list of pioneers that tried the treatment on yourself first.
Yeah, and the neuropathy is just took one treatment for me. I mean, I might go and do another. I don't feel the pressure to do it. I get stem cell shots in my back, and I'll get an IV shot when I need, and so it's always available to me. But people who have to come from abroad, obviously, you got to compress that the treatment period, and you know, it's very intensive, and you know, you're getting workups, and we've found all sorts of other comorbidities in people that they didn't even know they had. And it's fascinating to watch, and it's an honor to be a part of. And you know, when you're trying to develop any model, therapy, etc., you do have to stick to sort of, you know, base scientific principles, and you know, you want to think that you have construct, face validity, and predictive validity with your understanding of the disease and the interventions that you're making, and we're satisfying all those validity criteria, sticking them off one by one, right? And you know, so you got those three taken care of, and the rest looks after itself. And to have been when I first talking about the proteinopathy as a sort of cause of these chronic conditions from exposure to toxic epitopes, and to see it be able to be have an intervention. I just resigned myself to sort of, yeah, every time you wake up in the morning, you know, you feel like your hands are encased in concrete, and
Wow.
I was like, oh, it's gone. Oh, nice. Yeah.
Well, and no treatment's 100%. The
No.
important thing is
right,
is informed consent. You know, being told what the known risks and benefits are, and that's something we were denied over the last 5-6 years.
Yeah, we ain't forcing people to take this. This is highly elective. Right? You've got to.
So you're not locking them down?
No,
You're not
no,
mandating. They don't lose their jobs if they do it.
no.
And you're telling them what happens, and you're telling them about the side effects.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
so old-fashioned.
I
So
know.
old-fashioned.
Yeah, who would think of such a thing?
You're like an Antiques Roadshow doctor. What are you going to do with this
Yeah.
doctor?
It's tough to think I've been in this game 30 years, but I still feel, well, sometimes I feel old, but, in my mind, I'm sort of still that PhD student. And yeah,
Well, you
like
got
watching.
a beautiful brain, brother. You have a beautiful brain. It's
Mm,
been a joy just listening to it. I'm going to wrap this up, but look, we'd love to have you back on again at some point and maybe do follow-ups. I'm trying to get Nurse
what I'll
Lindsay
do
on.
for you is I'll just there are plenty of patients who want to speak
Yeah,
about their
come on. Let me
experience,
have them
right?
on.
And
Yeah, if they want to talk, I'll have them on. No problem at all. Yeah, happy to have them on. And then see where we go from there. We need hope. We have to sell hope. And we've got something
I'm happy to sort of just relay the anecdotes I haven't. So we had one guy who's come here. It's sort of been wiped out by vaccine and pharmacist, and been seen by Dr. Vaughan, and he had this amazing response. And then he combined it with HBOT here, and he's like, oh my God, the effect is just out of this world. And so he kept trying to do HBOT. Now he's just done too much HBOT. Now he's sick from doing HBOT, right? And but as a sort of clinical progression and test subject, has been fantastic as a sort of data point to sort of get a metric on. And yeah, it makes sense to me. Flood the system with oxygen when these growth factors go in, right? But I've just been like, people with all the CSF leaks and stuff, I'm like, I'm not sure HBOT is what you want to be doing. Just there's enough pressure going on in your brain that you don't need any more. And
that's nice. Sean is one of our followers. Hope is the sunshine of our hearts. That's great.
Well,
That's
yeah,
great.
I hope there's some hope after this. But
look, none of us is saying that this is the be all and end all. It's just this is where Kevin is. This is where this hospital is.
Yeah.
They're trying to help people, and they're just being very honest. This is what they've done. This is and so we'll get some people on, have them talking. Lindsay, I think Lindsay was meaning to come on when she gets back. Yeah, but even others, if we got a few, say 2 or 3, let them tell their stories. It'd be great, good or bad.
Yeah.
And Charles Ricks, he's doing running the trial. I think he's
he's like, it's an honor to call him my friend and fellow competent in this fight. And I know, yeah, he's got my back. I'll always have his. And he's, the US lost a special man by doing what they did to him and what they did to his Marines. And he
what a week we've had, Paul. We've had Barry Young on, the New Zealand guy, on Sunday, who released all the data. We had Rainer Fulmick. He interviewed him the other night.
And he in prison?
Yeah, he's in prison. I interviewed him from prison.
Oh, okay.
And so I interviewed him from prison, and now we got you. So it's been a hell of a week. It's a hell of a week down here in the cafe.
I mean,
I really want to thank you for coming on. Stay in touch. If you want us to help promote it, I'm really interested. And I think
like the more data points
stories would be great.
Yeah, the more data points we get, like the more confident. Like the first couple of patients, you're like, "Ooh, right, okay, worked in 1 and 2, and then you see it 10. Okay, it's doing something, and then by 25, you're like, okay, it's pretty predictable, the response, and we're at 60, and I got it's cool today, another POTS reversal, and
awesome.
Amazing.
And our newspapers are full of girls with POTS in Australia. They're saying it's an epidemic of girls with POTS. And they don't know what's causing it. They're baffled.
Well, we've got some. Well, this is the thing. This is still research, right? And it's a very sort of research orientated approach, and that's why there's a whole bunch of charts and figures to look at, because it's taking time. It's still I do projects in like 5-year stints, right? COVID was the first 5-year part of it, sort of learning it, and now we're into the 5-year part of tuning this therapy. And we already know different directions to go off the first cohort that we have. People are saying, "Oh, you publish it," and yeah, I'll get to that. But I'm so I'd rather just talk like this, and I'd rather if someone has an issue, like come and say it, right? And the whole peer review system was so cancerous now. I'd just say that why would I want to keep contributing to it? Why feed that beast, right? And
no one believes it anymore anyway, because
I know
have someone on, they've got their peer reviews, everything cancels each other out. Just to show you how bad things are, though, this Sunday, we do a show on Sunday, and we're going to play tribute to your loved one. So if you've lost a loved one, because often people say I've lost my brother, or I've lost usually it's multiple family members, and we're going to read them out. So get ready for Sunday night. Sunday, we're going to do a vigil show, just because we've got these.
Yeah, man, like that's what they're banking on. They're banking on to, like you're dying, and then you forgot about, and then you ain't a problem anymore.
You're gone. Well, I'm thinking, but these stats aren't stats. They're human beings who had loved ones, families, dreams. So why not mention them?
We do a thing called Forest of the Fallen, where we put up in public places, like at the beach down here.
I've seen the pictures.
So we're not letting go. We're not giving up on this. We're here until we protect the kids and we end the madness. So
just you've got to die on one hill, right? And every patient that I'm seeing turn around, I'm like, that's just one that Dennis Meadows and Clubber Rome and Kissinger didn't get to.
And this hill has such nice people.
Them crazy ones around the edges, but
I'd rather die with these crazy bastards.
Yeah.
Out there in the zombies.
I'm not. I sleep easy overnight. Put it that way, right? And well, I think those moral reprobates probably sleep easy too. They don't care. Right?
It's the drugs they can afford.
Yeah. Okay, fucked. All right. Thank you very much for letting me rant.
No worries, Kevin.
Lovely, man.
That was an absolute joy, man.
Yes, thank you. And it's an honor to meet you, Paul. I just, you've been in there from the beginning, and
he has.
You fight a good fight, sir. So
you too.
Hang in, and if you feel any chest twinges, you come see me. Any neuropathy, don't let it take you out. We can fix it.
Take care, Kevin. Right. Thanks for coming on.
Care. Bye-bye.
See ya. Paul, why don't you bring on your thing? Have you still got it about you being mentioned in court, or do you want to leave that for Sunday?
No, it was just I have it, but Rob, in Parliament, my name was mentioned by Malcolm Roberts along with Miley Trim, and
that's amazing. I love it.
And Mark Hobart, from Mark Hobart.
Yeah.
And another doctor that we've got to catch up with. So, what an awesome conversation.
Oh, he was amazing. That was amazing. Like you said, I don't know if he's listening. I didn't understand most of what he said, but it was amazing to have him on. We're going to go out with the Reiner song, which is going off around the world. And this was created on our show called Waiting for Reiner, because he couldn't make the Monday show. And I said to Troy, hey, Troy, write a song called Waiting for Reiner. I didn't think he'd do it. I was just joking. Well, Troy wrote it, and the world loves this song. So we're in the process now of getting images from Reiner's supporters in Switzerland, and we're going to see if we can do a video to go with it. But we're going to go out with this. It's available on the website too, and I think we're trying to figure out where the money goes to. Maybe half it goes to Reiner. That's up to Troy. But here it is. It's called Waiting for Reiner, and what a show, Paul! What a show!
Awesome.
Okay, let's see what happens. If you if we're not here tomorrow, call ASIO and say, can Paul and Michael come out to play, please? Good night, everybody. This is the music of Troy. It was literally a hit. He farts out hit songs. Here we go. Waiting for Ryder.
They took you past the courthouse gate with winter on the stone. You raised your voice when others bowed and faced the cell alone. A folded letter in your coat, a photograph of home. The guards can lock an iron door, but they can't own what you've known. We're waiting on Rainer, a good man standing tall, for every hand that would not bend, for every voice they stall. The years may mark the calendar, the walls may hide your face, but truth is walking toward you still, and freedom knows your name. Your mother keeps the kitchen lights until the morning train. Your brother reads the news aloud and says your name again. A little flag beside the sink, a cup you used to hold. Small things become a kind of oath when courage has a cost. We're waiting on Rainer, a good man standing tall, for every hand that would not bend, for every voice they stall. The years may mark the calendar, the walls may hide your face, but truth is walking toward you still, and freedom knows your name. No tyrant writes the final line, no prison seals the sky. A nation hears the quiet ones who chose not to comply. And when the heavy doors swing wide, we'll meet you in the rain, not as a symbol carved in stone, but as our friend again. We're waiting on Rainer, a good man standing tall. You kept your heart when power came to make the brave feel small. The years may mark the calendar, the walls may hide your face, but truth has crossed the border now, and freedom knows your name. Keep the kitchen light on, keep one place beside the flame. We're waiting on Rainer, and freedom knows your name.